So I think that opens fine, blind versus blind, but 5x, queen 4 suited, pretty wide. It ends up being a good fold by Todd, but I think Todd's probably defending 6 deuce suited at a more
Berkey sent
reasonable
me
size.
down here with all the fucking tryhards today. It's gonna be nice and tight. Good poker. You ready for some good poker?
Actions on you.
I think Christian forgot that everyone has noise canceling headphones.
Yeah. Forgot the format.
This should be his dream. He loves going to the table, putting headphones on, and not talking to anybody.
Playing the button here, I gotta press my position.
Got a
15
mystery
is the
hand
bet.
here. It's a big bet.
This is just trash. I'm not defending this.
Yeah, 5x is a lot, especially in a game that thus far has like seemingly played pretty tight, even though nobody's had anything. I'd like to see Kenny opening closer to like 10. I'm sure that this is kind of a byproduct of 1-3 Vegas games being pretty wild, where you open
Yes,
5x and you
so.
just get action from 4 or 5 different people.
Straddle 6.
This is our first Poker Out Loud straddle. Thank you, Chin.
Chin putting the strat up makes me tell me wants to mix it up. So we'll oblige.
25.
This is a more reasonable opening size, especially with deep stacks. Even with the $6 straddle, everybody's still over 100 blinds deep.
Right.
It's bad luck to make a man straddle alone.
So starting stacks for everybody, but Kenny was 1K. And Kenny was the one. Wait, was it
I
Kenny?
like that he put the straddle on. He's not a super
no.
nit.
No.
Just
Looks like
like
he's
only
pretty
wants me to put the straddle.
6 straddle. Sorry, production. $6 straddle.
Okay, pretty clear open here. Premium.
20.
I like the size. I played with Todd a little bit at the last meetup game. He seems to be a pretty disciplined player,
Okay.
best I can tell.
Actually, it was Samuel.
All right,
Samuel's
first
the
real
one.
playable hand.
Jack 9 of
I'm
hearts.
going to lean, given that I have the absolute worst position, just towards a fold. It's a good hand, but it's going to be hard to realize the equity and the playability of this hand out of position against the field. Going to be playing relatively tight out of the small blind regardless.
Well, Jack 9 of hearts goes into the muck. Surprised there because he won so much money from you
Yeah.
in the last episode of this.
Yeah, he got me pretty good. I think that's a good fold. It's difficult. It's kind of a 3-better fold situation, facing a larger raise just because of the straddle. And the fact he still has 2-2 left back behind him makes it pretty difficult.
Okay, but it's suited.
It was suited. I mean, there's no arguing that.
All right, I think this game's gonna play pretty tight and constructed. So 5-handed, I'm probably just gonna try to be a disruptor, see what I could cause some chaos up in here.
All right. Well, Youngblood 23, welcome back. 39 months in a row. Red Dog Big Daddy, good to have you 60 months in a row.
Guess we're playing 1-3-6. Here was thinking it'd be a friendly game.
Deep. Oh no, shallow.
15.
All right, as soon as I say that, I pick up the fucking blade. So that's a real thing. So I think that Chris should be expecting me to have a 3-better fold strategy here. Given that I am the first blind out of all the blinds here, I should mostly be only coming in for for 3-bets. So what that means is I expect a pretty aggressive response from Chris rather often here. I think that because of depth, we should be sizing up a little bit here. Also the fact that there's conflicting interest. So the first part is that because I'm 3-betting a lot from this position, my 3-bets should size down. However, because we're over 300 big blinds deep, but cut in half now because of the straddle, I should be sizing down. So I'm kind of landing at sizing down a little bit, just one, because I'm 3-betting this position rather often, and two, because the stack sizes effectively have been cut in half because of the straddle. However, if the straddle wasn't on, I would have to size up again because of the stack size. So because of that, I'm landing at somewhat of a smaller 3-bet size, something like 3x around there. So let's go with a little over 3x, something like 55 seems pretty good.
$55 is the bet.
So almost 4x from Christian Soto, about 3.6x. Kenny, I'm sure, is going to get out of here.
It's pretty standard.
This hand would have been callable for the single race, but for chin squeeze, no.
I disagree, Kenny. You're in the middle blind, not the big blind.
Ooh, Todd has a fun spot here.
His hand could serve as a
So-
cold 4.
Good? All right, hold on.
So, pretty decent hand here. With chin's 3-bet, I don't think I'm going to get a 4-bet through both of them. And without having position, playing against these two opponents, not knowing what Chris is going to do, I think I'm going to let this one go.
I mean, it's good.
Yeah, it's a good discipline
is-
fold.
All
He
right.
will need to 4-bet that
Well,
hand at some frequency, though.
Facing this size at 1,000 effective with chin, I'm not going to fold such a playable hand. Just not looking to 4-bet. Just going to take the equity, see what develops in position.
Yeah, I like this play.
All right, so timing-wise, he'd never considered a 4-bet, so that means he's probably going to be somewhere in a situation where he had no real decision of 4-betting, so he has somewhat of a capped range there, something that is never considering a 4-bet. So it's not often going to be a hand like the ace wheel suiteds, any of the weaker candidates like that. So it's going to be a lot of pairs. It's going to be a fair amount of condensed Broadway hands, something like Jack 10 suited, etc. Now 7-5-2, because he has like all the set advantage, maybe except for 7s. This is going to be a situation that's rather tricky. So let's see if we have diamond coverage. We do. So this is a situation where I probably want to start with a bet. I could mix in some checks here and then play it that way. This is a hand that probably does have fairly good turn equity distribution. If he does put in a flop raise, it's kind of a tricky spot. So this is the hand that probably needs the least amount of protection. That's the reason to check. The problem with a check is that a lot of my showdown hands take that route, and my non-showdown hands probably start with a bet. So probably just going to start with a bet, leave my range a little bit more uncapped. Of course, the fact that he has 5s and deuces is a little bit problematic, but I don't think it's enough for me to consider a check. So the pot 55 plus 9 times 2, so 110 plus 9, 120. I think this is a board that I'm probably going to be betting at a fair frequency. So I'm going to choose somewhat of a catch-all size here. I don't necessarily think pulling out is great. Actually, I kind of like the bigger size here, to be frank. I think that it kind of puts a lot of his hands into a tough spot. The fact that I contain 2 aces means that he doesn't have a lot of ace highs, meaning his range is going to be pretty condensed to either like hands that call or hands that just like pretty immediately fold. So I kind of like the bigger size in this spot just because of my hand, not necessarily the fact that like I am going to be playing this spot with a big size rather often. So I'm going to choose somewhat of a bigger size of the catch-all size, something like maybe 65 to 70% pot. I think that's rather good. Okay, let's go with 75.
Yeah, that was a long walk for a short drink.
Bet.
This is developing into kind of an unfortunate situation because even though we flop pretty well, once Chin chooses to bet, we're going to face a lot of multi-barrels, and it's not really a hand that can hold a lot of heat. I don't really see many hands that are just going to be like a one and done for Chin, which is unfortunate because like we obviously flop well and have to continue, but our path to winning seems pretty convoluted. Can't fold yet.
Call.
So Chin continues with aces on a 7-high board.
Shocking. I think Chris's analysis is really good there.
All right, this is a spot where I
this turn's
probably
good
should
for
start
him.
checking. The board is somewhat beginning to favor him. The river's gonna somewhat dictate how often we are going to be able to put in another bet. So on any 6, it's gonna be pretty bad. Any 7 is pretty negative. Some diamonds are somewhat tricky. So this is a spot where I wanna mostly just check, and if he checks back, we can introduce some polar sizings on river. If he bets, we have a pretty easy call. But betting here and getting raised is a pretty big negative. So effectively, just like the EV of this card is somewhat neutral, but the fact that like he has position and the river can somewhat ruin my hand in a significant manner, I think means that we need to start checking here. And then appropriating, we have a pretty easy like bluff catcher now. Like if he starts betting, we're just like calling and like beating some portions of his value range. So we have no decision of ever folding. The problem lies if I bet and he raises, it's tricky. If I bet and he calls and the river's a 6, if the river's a 7, if the river is a fair amount of cards, like it's just gonna be problematic. So my hand just needs to like shift towards a check. We don't need that much protection. The fact that we contain a diamond, the fact that we have aces, like it's all a pretty good reason for me to check. Also the fact that like I'm 3-betting this formation at a high frequency, and the fact that it's perceived to be that way and I'm perceived to have like a lot of bets on this kind of board means that I'm probably checking this card at a very high frequency, and he should expect that. So unsure if he expects me to check with this kind of hand class. So with that said, I'm just gonna start with a check.
Check.
No surprise to see a check out of Chin here. That's a card that should generally favor my range. The board's sort of just deteriorating for his range in general. So I expect him to still have like all the overpairs and some good hands, as well as some sort of equity hands. I'm just gonna realize where I am in my range. Probably just take the showdown value, not really looking to play a huge pot. Turn some equity, and definitely don't want to face a raise. So I think it's a relatively clear check and realize spot.
Check.
I kind of disagree with Christian's analysis there. I think that Chris has very few strong
All right,
hands.
check back caps his range a fair amount. Check back caps his range a fair amount. I think that the fact that I contain a diamond shifts him towards having somewhat of a showdown-driven range. We have a very easy bet. It's just a matter of I want to go polar or not. He does contain some hands that are like king, queen of diamonds, king, jack of diamonds, but sometimes he might bet those on the turn, so that's kind of, you know, a little bit of a trickier spot. Like he might not have that hand as much. Regardless, I think that his hand is rather capped in this situation, and we should be going like pretty big. We don't like, yeah, we do have a fair amount of king X's, but I don't think that's enough for me to like size down here, especially with this kind of a hand that unblocks all of his like 7X's, some 9X of diamonds, some 5X's, etc., pocket 6s, anything like that that he would be calling on the flop with and checking the turn back. So because of that, I think we want to size up with like ace king. You know, the fact that we don't have the king of diamonds is a good thing. Sometimes he is checking back diamonds on the turn, especially hands like king 9 of diamonds, maybe potentially for showdown value. So we want to size up and put the decision on him. So now that was 75, 75 plus 55, 55, and 9. So 150, 1 plus 110, 260, roughly around 270 in the middle. So I'm going to go with just a straight pot bet here.
Interesting, because I don't think a lot of kings show up on the river here.
265 is about.
I don't like Christian's line at all.
Well, we lost the spot. I was thinking through while Chin was talking logical bluffs that would take like a bet, check, bet. 3-bet, bet, check, bet. It's pretty hard to find. Plenty of good hands available. What is there, 250 in the pot, so it just slight over bet. I was thinking about a raise facing a bet also, just given that I block some 2 pairs, a set, and 6-8. I think I have 6-8 advantage, but again, it's just like, he could just have king, queen of diamonds, or aces, or kings. It's interesting he chooses to polarize. He's really only repping now like kings, aces, because I could just have king x of diamonds also. So if he were to choose to polarize with like a medium strength hand, I think that'd be sort of a mistake. He could also have like ace king with the ace of diamonds. A lot of hands, a lot of combinations I can think of that I just lose to immediately. Not a lot of bluffs, and just gonna give it up. Just gonna lose.
I think Chris played this hand really well. I think Christian kind of talked himself down a rabbit hole a little bit. The turn to me is not an obvious check by any stretch. Chris's range is still largely capped. I mean, he'll have like pocket 7s, 5s, and 3s, I guess. He's not likely to have too much 6-8 combos. And for that reason, Christian's not going to face a raise at a very high frequency, especially blocking the ace of diamonds.
10s?
Yeah.
Good fold.
I didn't have 10s.
No shit, you didn't have 10s.
6.
What is it, 136, huh?
All right, next time Christian
Pretty
Soto's
clear
sitting
open.
down on this, I'm shit talking the whole
Gonna
time.
go a little bit bigger with my better hands.
20.
Who's listening to Nate Dogg? That has to be Chin.
Production's gonna find out.
Yeah.
What happened?
Why is it so obvious?
8-5 suited. It's just not what I want to defend with right here. 6, 14. We're kind of, most of them have, they all start with 1,000. We start with 500, so just lower SPR, just not what I want to do.
How do you think about that? Do you ever defend there with a5 suited? I feel like a lot of times I'm defending there.
Yeah, but I think, so here's the thing. Samuel's background is largely in MTTs.
Okay.
So I think that, he's probably not super comfortable playing post flop out of position. Pretty reasonable spot to just fold the 8 high when you don't stand the flop very, very high equity. I want to double back to this spot with Chin and Chris real quickly. I understand where he was going in the sense that he's concerned about protecting his checking range there a little bit because, his overpairs are effectively incentivized to bet and his nothing now is a little bit more incentivized to check. And I get it. Aces are special. Aces are the one overpair that can kind of check pretty comfortably, especially blocking the nut flush draw. But I think it's just like overly considerate based upon how kind of transparent Chris's range is. He's going to have a lot of flush draws. He's going to have a lot of middling pocket pairs.
Look who did put the fucking straddle on, huh?
That, can call another. And he's going to have such
to the straddle, you fucking
or so few 6-8 combos that he's unlikely to be raising very much when Christian bets.
I wasn't going to say anything.
So I actually think Christian kind of gets to go a little larger on that turn and pursue the path of polarization.
Yeah, we're playing this one.
when he does decide to check the turn and now lands on the river, which is a massively advantageous card for him, polarizing is unnecessary. He could bet half pot with both his value and bluffs
checks
and still
would be
expect a
here.
pretty reasonable frequency from the same.
From a button raise, we're definitely gonna 3-bet this. Make it 50.
50 is the bet.
Pretty small 3-bet sizing here, especially against the button open. Of course,
Well,
Kenny just wakes up with it.
I got 2 options here. I can call and go post flop, or I can 4-bet him. Give him the stack size and how short we are. Short-handed. I think it'd be more incentivized to 4-bet.
$240 is the bet.
230, 235, 240,
Yeah,
240.
240.
I don't know much about Kenny, so it's definitely leveraging stacks here. So if can't flat it, so I mean I'm pretty much going within or folding. I just think so far right here, what we know against our player profile is, I mean, he just seems tight enough that, I mean, he definitely has pairs. Jacks are better, even though we block jacks and aces, and we block some of his ace king, ace queen, but I think we're just gonna lay it down here.
Nice fold.
Yeah, it's a really good fold. I think you're kind of right in that his 3-bet sizing was a little small. Again, I think that's a bit of a byproduct of massaging smaller stacks in MTTs. Somebody on Twitch said that you're defending 8-5 suited in MTTs. Also, don't know where I'm coming from. This guy's just a nit. It's like, yeah, well, you are defending 8-5 suited in MTTs because there's a very large ante, and it's usually a min raise. So it's a layup call. Here he's facing 4 or 5x in a situation where there's no ante. It's absolutely a fold.
And also, you have to recognize stacks. He is the shortest stack by double
Right.
or half.
Right. So effectively, they're not very deep.
Correct.
So this hand, Jack 10 off on the button. I feel like it's time for me to get involved here. This is a good candidate to start.
20 is the bet.
All right, so they're using a little bit of a larger sizing. This is like 3.2x. Let's see what we got. Jack 4 suited. Not a hand that's going to qualify for me to defend, so I'm going to fold. I would probably be defending versus like smaller sizing. Maybe if you use like a smaller sizing. So unfortunately, like they're opening pretty big, so we're just going to have to like mostly 3-bet and play pretty solid pre-flop. Not a lot of calling, unfortunately. We'll see what happens.
You can tell Christian Soto is trying to alpha this table.
100%.
$6 shadow.
I hate this version of him more than anything else on earth. It's the worst.
I love these type of players so much on my
Yeah.
table.
Yeah.
Oh, I left to needle the shit out of them.
They can't hear you, man.
I know. The only reason why I would love to do one of these is I would love you to critique my
Ace
game.
unsuited here.
I get it.
For 5-handed, we're gonna open this over the straddle. We're gonna go with 20.
Sorry,
20 is the
critique
bet.
my game specifically against people like Christian Soto because I
Sure.
think I have a very unorthodox
All right,
approach to
queen
it all.
9 suited. This could go either way. Obviously, all options are on the table. I'm just gonna shoot him up because, like, fuck it. Yeah, let's just kind of chin check. He's a lot shallower than I thought. Okay, so 300, 350, 400. let's just go to like 120 and see if he just like shoves through and like whatever. Let's go like 110.
110.
Oof. And now, what does Kenny do here? with
Interesting
ace
spot.
queen
This is a really good 4-bet spot. He has
Could
to
be a
pull it,
squeeze, could be real,
but I know that Kenny's risk averse.
but
He gets to play for stacks against Samuel pretty easily.
definitely continue with this hand.
Please don't cold call. He loves to cold call these.
I have to feel like cold calling has to be the worst.
At this depth, yeah.
Oh, 250. I
like
like,
this.
it.
This is a good size, too.
decision anyway, but easy fold, obviously.
All right,
Puts
easy fold
Christian-
here. Obviously, his hand should be like really strong, given that he's like committed to calling that stack. Yeah, you know, this was a little loose, but like whatever. Like he has to like he's pretty committed to like shoving through or not. So like, unfortunately, we just ran into a hand. Show a bluff.
How do you feel about showing hands, Berkey?
Justin said it on the last stream. I literally, quite literally, will never show a hand.
Really?
Yeah. It's like everyone here knows I'm bluffing more than everyone else. I don't have to telegraph it. Every now and again when I have the nuts, I'll let them know.
I
I'll
think
just be like,
it's
I get a
different
good hand.
because it's you and people
Yeah.
kind of know you.
Yeah.
But if you're a random human being, do you think they should be showing or not?
No. For the same reason that I don't.
Under
It's-
any circumstances.
Under any circumstances, it's a game of privileged information. All you do is hurt yourself by showing that type of stuff, and whatever narrative you think that you're helping by like saying, oh well, now he knows I'm capable of this, that, or the other. You're only mind fucking yourself. You're just creating a meta that you can't
I
parse
can't think of
because
a
you don't
spot
know
where
how they're
I'd
going to interpret it.
Even come in for 3 on this. I'm dominated
To me, Berkey,
and uncomfortable.
it's not necessarily airtight, but you can't be the shepherd of a sheep by just thinking what they want to do.
I like this.
You gotta nudge them a little bit.
Right.
You gotta give them a little carrot.
Yeah. You gotta live like a sheep, if you will.
So to me, against randos, I'm looking to be that shepherd.
I understand, but
I understand what you're saying
Yeah.
too. I don't think we're
Gonna have to proceed with caution here. No straddle, which happens to favor my particular hand. Earlier I said I was gonna open bigger with better hands. What I meant was just like by the incentive of my hand. So for people to start exploiting that, they would not only have to figure out what I'm doing, but figure out how to respond, which I don't really see happening, especially over like a 4-hour session. So we'll see what happens.
9.
All right, so this is a hand that, you know, this is a spot where, like, against really tough players, I would fold, especially if the people on my left are, like, 3-bet happy. Personally, like, I would fold this hand in, like, the toughest players. Chris is obviously a very good player, but I think that I just don't want to give him the spot. Obviously, we're the button, so we get to VPip a fair amount as well. I am a little concerned with the fact that, you know, my left is like extremely active with like pre-flop action, but you know, like whatever. If we lose $9 trying to defend this button, then so be it. I think that just like playing this spot really tough will afford me some opportunities now as well as in the future. So I am not going to fold King 10 offsuit, especially with Berkey in the booth. If I fold this hand with him watching, I think he'll just like disown me. So here we go.
listen, I think it's a good disciplined fold, but just shower this kid, man. And now get showered.
Well, would have a couple options, but
Back to
I
back.
generally want to scan near the field.
Sizing, I feel like, is very important in this spot.
85.
$85. I actually like this sizing. It's a little bit big. There's a lot of people behind it. And he is in the worst position possible.
Yeah.
I have a good amount of hours with Kenny, and he, in my experience, has been incredibly value heavy in a lot of spots, especially versus me. 8x more Wow. For that size and versus Kenny, I am just going to have better hands. Good luck, Chin, who's also going to fold, probably.
He's right.
All right, so obviously that was one of the options that I was prepared to happen. I think our hand is a very clear fold. However, I think that what we want to do now is we're gonna have to incorporate some pretty strong flats. Probably some hands that I would just like be able to just like pile through this or like 4-bet induce or whatever. So we'll just keep that in mind. Unfortunately, like this spot didn't work, but I still like my initial thought process. This was just part of the spots that I was thinking about.
Yeah, I think Christian's reading too much into this. So he's watched hours upon hours of Kenny play. Kenny's been to the academy, the elite academy. Like he's just been through it all a few times. He knows that
I'm not straddling.
Kenny trends risk
because
averse.
I don't think it really favors me in this game.
He
I
knows
would
that
just like to play at
Kenny's not taking these
depth
spots at
as
too
opposed
high of a
to
frequency. There
having
isn't really a
stack
need for him to
sizes,
protect that
especially
flat
with
range.
like a
The squeeze is going to come through at a pretty low
stack
frequency.
to my immediate right. Also out of spite, because Chin gave me shit for it. So standard open. How much? I haven't decided. It's fine to just have like a baseline size, but people aren't going to exploit you if you mix it up.
12.
Doesn't fall.
It's twice.
Huh?
That's twice.
Yeah, I mean, he just doesn't want to straddle with it, so whatever.
What are you going to do?
Huh?
What are you going to do? I don't want to straddle.
I didn't say it. I said it was okay that you didn't want to straddle.
All right.
I was actually defending you.
Oh, okay.
Wow, Christian really trying to get into his head.
They have probably one of the most toxic relationships I've ever seen
It
between two
seems
humans. It's the big brother, little brother syndrome to the fullest.
But it's that type of, what are you talking about? I wasn't being negative at all.
Yep.
You're just reading into this. And then Christian's like, all right, I'm going to fuck these people up.
Oh, man.
Jesus.
7-6 suited with 2 tough player profiles and just being in a small blind. Plus, we only have 400. I think I'm just going to fold here in this particular spot.
Yeah, so he chooses to lay down 7-6 suited there. I would have liked to have seen him lay it down the previous time whenever there was a straddle that Chin chose to 3-bet him. He's just too short. Being less than 100 big blinds deep really restricts your ability to play suited connectors in any sort of cash game environment.
He's like 20 SPR as soon as he calls the flop.
Right, yeah. He's in very bad shape. I mean, it's
Actually
nice to have the
think
betting
that
lead, but you're going to face those 3-bets at a
Chris not straddling is probably pretty smart, and I might follow suit given how active pre-flop Kenny's been, and just like increasing the depth of the game is probably beneficial for the game, and not allowing him to just like continually like just like make it a pre-flop game. So we'll see how that pans out. I'll probably just like kill the straddle, and I assume everyone else will follow suit.
Okay. So, at ace-9 offsuit, normally I'm not going to put this in my opening range, but playing 5-handed here, I think it's going to have a lot more value. So
20 is the bet.
So I got a question from Why So Many KK. This is all their own money. Every single chip in this.
6-5 suited from this position, facing this big of an open. Pretty negative of a spot for me to call. Especially with how 3-betty my left has been. So I might just like shoot this up. Let's just shoot it up. Let's not think too much about it. Let's go with 95.
95 is the bet.
Okay, so he's 3-bet me now to what looks like 85. 95. And I do believe I'm going to call here. I know his 3-betting range is going to be a little wider in this game, and I got to at least take a stand now and let people know that that's not going to just be pushed over.
This is the plight of the up-and-coming player, always feeling like it's a bully tactic. Now, this is fortunate for him in that he flops
this is
well.
a spot where
We'll see if he can
probably
hold
want to
on.
bet just simply based on the fact that my hand might be good. However, it needs a fair amount of protection. It doesn't necessarily check call too nicely. The fact that I don't necessarily have any backdoors is somewhat of a negative in terms of playing my hand through multiple streets. The benefits of betting is that I do get denial from some hands that I am ahead of, say hands like Jack 10, etc. I do block hands like Ace 5 suited. However, he probably 4-bets that hand with some frequency. I think that he does have a fair amount of Ace X coverage, something like maybe Ace 10, Ace Jack, etc. However, he has a whole section of other hands that I benefit from denial. I also, the hand just doesn't necessarily check call too nicely. So I think I just need to start with a bet, something like third pot, and then push my equity of both my hand and my range to the next street and let him kind of respond to that. So I'm not going to overthink it or overanalyze the situation. I think that's just third pot's very natural here. So pot's roughly 95 times 2, so 190 plus is 6. So roughly 200, so let's just bet something like 72.
Boy, I wish we had that 7-6 of hearts. That
Would have been a beaut.
yeah, that we saw get mocked.
So he has definitely all the better aces than I do. However, with my actual holding here, I can't see myself folding, but definitely going to consider raising. He'll also have heart combinations. His sizing here is looks like 60, 72. Like to put the weird 2 on it, but we're going to go ahead and raise here. Question is how much. So when he puts 70, I feel like he has a lot of continues here. So
Berkey, I don't know about this, man. A raise here just doesn't feel good with his
285.
exact hand. It feels like he, for the most part, folds out all the hands that he's beating and all the hands that he's getting decimated.
Flop raise here is pretty weird. We really shouldn't see too many flop raises here. He can have hands maybe like Ace X of hearts, pocket eights. However, there is 2 combos of Ace 8 suited. There is 1 combo of Ace 5 suited now. There's 1 combo of pocket 5s, 3 combos of pocket 8s. He's not gonna have aces here almost ever. So I'm mostly just concerned with 2 combos of Ace 8 suited, 1 combo of Ace 5 suited, so that's 3. 1 combo of pocket 5s, so that's 4. 3 combos of pocket 8s. So that's 7 combos of value. And then he has like the ace-x of hearts. That of which he won't always, he won't always raise flop with. He'll mix in some flats. But it's like, he's repping a very thin range, but I'm at like such a bottom of range hand that like I think I just need to release. I could just like hood call, but I just think that's like pretty bad. He's just repping so thin. But then again, I just have like all the ace-x's. Like I could just have like ace-x with a heart. I could just have like ace-king, ace-queen, all of which I'm playing this way anyway. Ace-5 myself, pocket 8s myself, ace-8 suited myself. So like I just need to fold. For like range purposes, this is also just like a pretty under-bluffed flop.
Lay it down, big fella.
I just don't buy it though.
So what he
I don't
recognizes
buy
is
it,
it's a
but I also don't
mistake.
want to punt it. So yeah, I'm just gonna give it to him.
Yeah. So what Christian's recognizing there in his thought process is that Todd is absolutely making a mistake.
That's what you get
There
for
are
72.
nearly no hands that can raise this flop. Really, like Christian was saying, it's just
So
like
that's what you get
ace-x
for
of
betting
hearts,
72.
pocket 8s, pocket 5s, 2 combos of ace-5 suited, 2 combos of ace-8 suited. And, you know, Todd hasn't been through the academy yet. Like, he's not a super schooled player, so the tendency will be that he'll lean into what he knows, which is value. So when that flop raise comes through, it's likely to just be his highest equity hand.
Yeah.
I don't know how much I have.
When I see
I
a
have
guy
500.
like doing that, like Todd,
Okay.
all I think of is how I play him is just very straight up. Just I don't have to do anything fancy, and literally I put my sword out, and they'll run into it.
The
Eventually.
problem is when you have ace-king in that spot. Because you face that raise. Well, you face that raise, and now you have your best bluff catcher. But you've programmed yourself into thinking that like the only hands that are raising are his highest equity hands. But he's kind of outside that bubble when he chooses a hand like ace-9 off to quote unquote see where
Pretty
he's
close
at.
between.
Sure.
Right. So now we can potentially make some small errors.
Okay.
But we make bigger errors. We make bigger errors if we
Pretty
examine
close
it at equilibrium.
between an open here with 3 people left to act. Obviously, on the button, normally this would just be a default open. With 3 people left to act, it's a little bit different, but I'm not going to pass on spots on the stream.
$15 is the bet.
This hand definitely falls in my flat part of my construction. See a flop.
So definitely going to continue here. I think I'm getting a good price.
All right. We got an unsuited connector, and flops a little bit.
A little bit for everybody.
Todd. Chris has some runners.
Chris got a lot of optimism in this spot.
In multi-way spots, I'll tend check and let the hand develop before I make a decision on this.
Check.
So it is Jack-9 high.
So I think I'm going to check here and let Chris, let's see what Chris does. My hand could function as a check raise, but
Yo, Todd, chill out.
definitely going to let one peel off here and then navigate.
Check.
I'm very surprised he said he was going to check raise here.
So at first glance,
it
I
sounds
think
a
it's
little
pretty easy
overly
to be
aggressive.
like, well, we have some back doors and 6 high. We didn't open to just check down 6 high, but be that as it may, this board just interacts pretty heavily with the field as a whole. Like I don't really think that taking a hand that blocks a bunch of auto folds, like 4s, 6s, 4-5, 6-5, that kind of thing, and just starting to bluff with it and like hoping to barrel on a club when they could just have higher club combinations is really a good idea. Like a lot of our barrels a lot of our logical barrels just give them more equity also. So the function of opening this hand is really like to find a better board and start bluffing, or just to take down the blinds.
Check.
Nice check. You're going to be rewarded with a 3 of clubs. Nope, not even close.
He is rewarded by having to just fold his hand.
Yeah. Making the most
Flop
money out of
checking
this hand
through.
now.
Figure I have enough equity where it's worth a stab.
25 is a bet.
Ambitious.
Yeah, Kenny's hand is a pretty natural check here, I think.
Okay, so I believe there's going to be a lot of queens in Chris's range, and also in gentleman next to me. And but I do turn more equity. I'm actually going to call and see if I can see what Chris does. See if we can get to a river, and see where we go from there.
25.
So I have an auto fold here, but I just want to say another point is that I just have so many better hands to be bluffing with. We don't really need to reach down to like our nonsense hands. It's just because I have so many Broadway combinations, both suited and offsuit, that I can just use those instead, and it doesn't really matter on the flop.
Ooh, not the best river for Kenny.
It's a good spot for Kenny to block. So betting something in the neighborhood of $30 or even 25 again is pretty
River
good.
didn't change much.
Oh, really?
And
Only because he has like
as a check in the spot.
effectively the nut 9. I think checking is also pretty good, but his hand's a pretty bad bluff catcher.
Okay.
So when he checks the river here,
Like he could get value from
I would
9-10.
expect some type of a bet.
Todd has a pretty
I
clear
think
bet
I'm
here.
going to try to get a little value here, and out of my jack, and hopefully I'm not taking myself to value town.
This is a good bet. Something in the neighborhood of half pot. Pretty good. Too big. Too big, too big, too big.
110.
Whoa.
Yeah. You don't get the overbet here with middle pair. Nothing worse can call. Kenny should be folding a lot of his worst jacks in this
So
position.
my hand is a bluff catcher, so we'll see.
Oh, don't be lazy, Kenny.
Oh.
You can't just allocate your hand as something and then not not react according to the size. Like, yeah, your hand's a bluff catcher at $45, but when you face 110, you're just against Queen X a lot.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Couple of shout outs right now to Seaball Boy and Taylor. Good to have you guys back in chat. Seaball Boy was actually going to show up. He was going to drive here from Arizona to play in this game.
Wow.
And then he chickened out.
He
That is
Colton will actually be on the next produced version of Poker Out Loud.
amazing. Can't wait to see that.
Right time.
And of course, Taylor was in this before as well. I want to remind you guys, if you do want to play in one of these Poker Out Louds,
Trying to
you do
shoot right
so with Berkey. Berkey
Yeah.
has academies coming up
Should have bet further.
80 million times a year, something like that. It's gonna get like that. We keep doing these.
We have 2 more prior to the World Series, and then we'll announce fall dates sometime over the summer.
Nice.
I have 998.
Check it out at solve4y.tv.
Thank you.
Or I'm sorry, solve4y.io.
Yeah.
Jen has 998.
Close.
Mods, can you put that in chat? Here, I'll do it. Solve TV.
Button share.
I'm gonna open here. It's probably like the stone bottom, but not too worried about it, given that we're only four-handed, and I don't know. Blinds aren't gonna be too aggressive, I don't think.
10.
All right, in this formation, this hand's like strictly value. We want to be 3-betting this at a high frequency, especially knocking out the blinds. Playing heads up in position with king queen suited is going to be relatively good. Now, because we are the button, we're going to want to be using a more polarizing sizing, generally speaking, because we're incentivized to call, as you saw earlier with king 10 offsuit. We get to VPIT more hands, and because of that, when we choose to pass on the option to call, we can choose a more polarizing sizing because we're passing on our incentive. So because of that, I like to use somewhat of like a 3.5 to 4x sizing. Here I'm going to use a 3.5x sizing, so I'm going to go up to $35.
35 is the bet. Fold.
Pretty snap punished. Caught at the bottom. Gets a good player out of position. Just gonna fold.
You two can play with Christian Soto. Mess up these guys easy. Remind you guys that we have 4 hours of content for you today. Happy to be here. Andre Hengchua alongside Matt Berkey. Bring you Poker Out Loud action. It is a S4Y exclusive.
We did it.
Can't get this anywhere else, folks. You can search.
Bottom range for open cutoff here.
YouTube, Twitch.
Because the big blind is a little bit shallower, and I think that potentially I do want to play some pots with him in position. I'm going to be raising somewhat smaller here. This is actually, I think, like my first true open. I haven't even gotten to like open a hand. It's only been like mostly 3-betting or calling. So I actually do get introduced like my first actual open. I do want to open somewhat smaller in this lineup. I think that I have, you know, a post-flop edge. This hand obviously is incentivized to mostly just garner folds pre-flop. So because of that, I'm actually going to deviate from the standard open and just, I was going to open to 8, but because this hand just, actually, you know, I'm not going to overthink. I'm just going to open 8.
8. Call.
You were supposed to talk.
Nothing to say when you have
I
deuces.
think here, I definitely either fold or raise, and I'm gonna let this one go. Try to find a better spot here.
Good fold, Todd.
All right, so what I was saying is that obviously a hand like this makes the most amount of money by just getting immediate folds post-flop, I mean pre-flop. So I was going to, you know, change the sizing and be like a little bit more uniform with the players and maybe just get immediate folds. However, I realized that like it's unlikely that they fall for that kind of stuff and they're going to be pretty inelastic with their pre-flop sizing. So just stuck with the 8, which I was going to do from the beginning. Now 10-9-3, us with the diamond here, we can go either way. We can bet and play the hand that way. We obviously have a lot of equity to do so. However, the fact that I don't have an over to go along with my diamond makes me lean to want to check a little bit more. The hand can maneuver through multiple streets that way. Also, a board like 10-9 is going to interact pretty well with the defender's range. He's going to have hands like queen, jack, king, queen, things like that are going to interact. So this is somewhat of a negative board for me. Obviously, he's going to have a more condensed range when he calls my open versus like me opening the cutoff. So because of that, I'm going to have a high checking frequency. The fact that it's a monotone board is going to make me have a high checking frequency. The fact that I don't have 2 overs to the 10, but rather 1 over to the 10 is going to have me having more of a checking frequency. So because of that, I think I'm going to lean check here and then play the hand that way. Now, the pros of me betting is that I do get some hands that are slightly better than me to fold. Maybe a hand like ace queen, no diamond, ace jack, no diamond, king. You know, obviously I beat king X's, but they have pretty good maneuverability. So there's pros and cons. I think that I am mostly going to lean check here because of the 10 and the 9. Maybe if it was like 10-8, something like that, I would probably lean a little bit more aggressive. So let's start with check.
Check.
Reasonable check.
Check.
I thought that discussion was really interesting. There's a lot to really take in there.
3. I think I get to just start going really hard here. I think I want to start incorporating some potentially turnover bets here and just go like big bet, representing like some flushes, some over pairs. He's going to be relatively capped here. So 8 plus the blinds of 4, so that's $20 in the pot. I think I want to go something like 28 and then put in another big bet, assuming that a diamond doesn't come. If a diamond comes, I think we like potentially size down, etc.
$28 is the bet.
Almost 1.5.
I said mining and I airballed.
Wow. Just what's it go? No.
I don't like Christian sizing on the
mic
turn.
good?
He has a tendency to over
Can you ask him?
polarize in situations like
They can
this,
hear me. I just turned it off and back. I assume it's good, but
where his opponents have capped themselves.
Uh-huh.
The problem is that like there isn't a lot of value that's going to want to choose that size. Say he flops a flush, he doesn't really want to go over bet there. If he has a full house, he doesn't really want to go
Yeah.
over bet there.
You know, I love those plays to incorporate when you have history with people.
Right, right. People are going to read too deeply into the meta where now all of a sudden if you have like aces with the ace of diamonds, you just have a chance of stacking somebody with a 10.
Yeah. But when you're trying to maximize value over people that you don't have a ton of volume with them, they're just going to look at it as a math game.
Right. And more importantly, like in that situation, he's trying to garner a fold.
All right.
And he's probably going to have to play another street.
So I
He'd
killed the
much rather
straddle.
choose like
I'm
3/4
just gonna
pot
keep
there
opening,
and then
you know.
polarize the river.
I think this hand's a little bit outside of construction, but they've been playing relatively tight. I like to see some responses. Obviously, the fact that Chris is in the big blind is somewhat of a negative because he's pretty good. But I'm just going to open this hand and take it. Yeah, I just want to give a little action to start the match.
8.
seemingly obvious defend. I think a lot of people misunderstand the big blind defense thing in multi-way pots. Like, for example, it's impossible for somebody to steal your big blind from under the gun because you're protected by the field. Like, they can't just open and steal. Just want to say that.
A little bit for everyone.
So not gonna have any leads here unless I just like have a really good value hand and want to be deceptive, but advantage board for him. Gonna check.
Check.
All right, ace jack 6 versus big blind. This is a spot where I can actually size up. I think that I want to be sizing up with like ace king. I want to be sizing up with like ace queen, ace jack, pocket sixes, things like that. Obviously splitting 2 different sizes here into a small bet size and a big bet size. The fact that we have one of our lower flushes and even like an outside construction flush, a flush draw, makes me want to size up, make it really difficult for him to show down. So I want to start with a more polar situation where I can actually potentially triple off this hand. The fact that I have somewhat of my lower flushes is kind of a good thing. So I want to make it really hard for him to show down. So I want to start with the big bet size, balance that off with like some ace kings, etc. So I open to 8, he called, so it's 8 plus the $1. So I want to bet pot here, so I'm just going to go with straight pot of 17.
What do you think this sizing?
This I don't mind so much, just
17 is
because
the bet.
it's more of an
Pretty
aggressive
interesting
formation.
size. I expect him to have a really high c-bet frequency, which should generally lend to a smaller size. But he's choosing to polarize right off the bat, which is kind of unfortunate for me, given that I land like in the middle. Because it means we're gonna be facing, again, a lot of bets on turns and rivers, but obviously too high up to fold yet, so we're just going to hope for a favorable run out and some shutdown from Chin.
Of course, Chris's hand is a little bit too good to fold.
Okay.
Now it's going to run into it.
All right, so this is a spot where I can, like, a fair amount of my hands have downgraded here.
Yeah, he should be sizing down.
So I
before
probably
checking back,
should be
not with
mixing
this
in
hand,
some
though.
checks. Do I want to mix in a check this time? I think his range is going to be pretty strong when he does call the 17. You know, so theoretically I do want to mix in some checks here. Do I want to do it this time? I think I could, especially against Chris, who's probably not necessarily going to expect me to slow down too much after the pole bet size. So I think I'm somewhat gonna incorporate a tricky check back here. He's probably gonna block river, which then I'm probably going to introduce some raises. So I kind of just want to mix in a check. I don't check this spot all the time. We did start with a pole bet size, so that means that often I'm going to have a fair amount of bets. But I think if I had a hand maybe like ace king, ace queen, I might, you know, no spade, something like that, maybe I would incorporate some turn check back. So I want to mix in a turn check back here, and then kind of see if it causes some big river errors.
I would like to see him split between two sizes, something like 40 to 60%, and then something closer to pot, rather than just checking back.
This is pretty interesting.
I think he could have went small
once
there and
I-
got 2 streets out of Chris here.
Once Chin polarizes flop, I assume he has like stronger ace-x, sixes, jacks, ace-jack, and then like really high equity hands like king-queen with a spade or queen-10 with a spade, queen-10 of spades, king-10 of spades. And against that range, we're still dead, regardless of the increase in our hand in absolute value. I don't think a lead makes a lot of sense. Like, what are we even targeting with a lead? Seems like I should just check, hope that he has a bluff, but all of them would follow through on a spade. It's a pretty interesting spot. I imagine like his king, queen, queen 10 with a spade, like his logical hands that would polarize the flop, polarize the flop, would be continuing on a spade. I feel like he just has like houses, stronger ace-x, and also probably a couple nothing hands. So it doesn't make sense to lead into that range. So I'm going to check.
Okay, so he could incorporate some traps here, but I think that the majority of his range is going to be showdown driven when he checks turn and river. So if he does check raise river, we'll deal with it at that point. I think at this point we have a pretty clear big bet situation where I think we want to bet maybe an over bet, something like that. Because I have a fair amount of ace-x's in my own range here, I think that it's going to be somewhat tricky to, well, okay, I have somewhat of my own ace-x here that I want a big bet. However, the fact that I unblock the ace-x makes him a lot more available to have ace-x himself. So I think I just want a big bet. Target is ace X's. Maybe he hero calls with a jack. I think I repped like pretty capped. However, when he has an ace and I take this line, I think he just like can't fold because it just makes it really unlikely that I have an ace myself. So I think I just want a big bet and put him into a tougher decision. So it was 17, 17, 34 plus the $1. So there's 35 out there. I think I just want to go like, if he has an ace, like 45.
Berkey, if I'm checking the turn, it's so hard for me to big bet here at the river. I mean,
Well-
maybe it's because he's trying to get 2 maximum streets of
45 is
value,
bet.
but I feel like
Well, we have trips here a
What
lot.
did he bet on the flop? 17?
Yeah.
So,
I think, what does Chris have here?
34.
He goes check, call, check,
8,
check.
3,
Jack X,
10, 8,
uh,
8.
some
So
flushes,
50,
some worse ace X.
45. Yeah, this sucks, man.
I mean, Chris just
I
has a
needed
very
to
clear
have
call.
like king queen of diamonds or queen 10 of diamonds. This has a lot of hands I lose to. You know, probably gonna land on a call anyways. It feels deceptively high up because relative to the hands that I think he polarizes the flop with, God, this would be a crazy fold. I
Yes,
really
it
don't want
would.
to fold.
Well,
The hands that he would polarize the flop with, we just still lose to. Again, regardless of our increase in absolute value. But
and Chris senses it, huh?
Yeah.
so shitty.
This is why the check back on the turn doesn't play as well as a small bet. If Christian had chosen like 40% pot on the turn, now he'd be able to bet this like 75, 80% pot on the river.
Well,
Yeah.
and Chris
I
would
be
have to find some
mortified if I
defends that aren't
overfold,
flushes.
but probably not
Oh, you-
mortified if I
You still
overcall.
think he goes that big?
Flawed
70,
line of
80%?
thinking, but
I think he can. He could just go half-half. Oh, no.
Nice hand.
I wish Chris would have folded now. It's so funny because, like, Chin's trying to do to Chris
go.
what I do to Chin. But he's so much meaner about it than I am.
Yes.
17.
Chris's analysis there is really good. It's difficult for Christian to find bluffs through that line work. Most of the hands that are going to want to bluff are going to follow through on the turn.
Yeah.
So he should be choosing a size on the river that
can you
represents
fold? You're
like
so high
some
up in your
thin
range, you
Jack
know?
X, some Ace X, you know, things of that nature.
Yes.
And Chris could almost respond through a check raise bluff rather than calling because he's so indifferent at that point. Like he knows it's not really winning all that much by calling. He feels that he's beaten a lot, but he may be able to garner some folds through a large check raise.
What gets me is I feel like Chris is at the way, way top of his range
It feels that
when
way.
he
All
when
right.
he checks back the turn
Fuck
or
that.
checks the turn and then
Uh,
checks the river.
Gonna open.
It
give
feels
him
that
it,
way for sure.
And he's in the straddle.
But
and I
truth
just
is,
think
like
he
any
way
flush
overfolds.
is way higher up in his range at that point than trip aces.
Sure.
Gonna open
And
small,
when you
though.
have a flush, your
Mirror
opponent has an
that
ace to call you with.
tendency.
Sorry, I know there's a hand going on. Actually, can we just like, because I do want to talk this through with you, Berkey, real quick. You know, I think the big thing that I'm targeting is
This sizing is like really small. I don't know. I think he's just doesn't have it here with this sizing, so I'm just gonna be a little bit outside of construction and just like fucking shoot him up again.
Shoot him up.
and please tell me if I'm wrong, but in that last hand, Christian
65.
very rarely is up against aces, trip aces there. He's very rarely up against flushes there. It's so hard.
Well, when he has 10-7 of spades, he's against trip aces more.
More,
When he has an ace, he's up against a flush more.
but you have all those hands that do go
Caution
check
and
turn, check
deviation
river.
here.
That's the problem is that I
In
think
general,
Chris
when that happens,
should have
you
blocked
should
bet
just
river.
fold if you like,
Yes.
choose to
Because
expand.
it's very difficult for Christian to have hands that
And then
raise.
face another aggressive action. God, I'm so tilted from that slow. If you face another aggressive action after you like expand, then you should almost just always fold. And I have king 3, so fold.
Yeah, that the trip aces hand is a very weird hand. I think intuitively Chris understands that they kind of landed in an imbalanced spot on the river. It's difficult for Christian to find bluffs. He could take hands like king, queen, no spade that was just giving up river and recognizes the ace is a good card to kind of go for it on.
Sure.
It's optimistic, though. You know,
Yeah.
there's not a lot there.
That's why, I think at the river, I'm with you for that turn bet. The river, you end up in a situation where there aren't many value hands that Chris can call large sizes with.
Right.
So they have to kind of level themselves, thinking like, oh, I'm going to call 45, which
I
is
think
almost pot.
that was a pretty good example of like the mental barrier, because I even identified the spot and just couldn't pull the trigger. It's human nature, I suppose.
I think Chris just admitted to being on tilt without saying he's on tilt.
It happened.
Principle alone.
20.
I think I'm going to continue here. I think if I had the suited variety, I would probably be more prone to 3-bet him. But I think I still have enough equity to just continue through a call and see what develops.
Huh? Yeah.
Is it? You have to check this.
Check.
Ooh, wow. So Kenny raised here and then checks back flop with an ace queen 10 on board. He has of course his exact hand isn't super great, 7 high.
So I
he has
think
7
I'm
high.
going to go ahead and
Right.
check back here.
This is a good check back by Todd.
My hand definitely has a good showdown value here. So no need to get him to fold just yet.
I think it's reasonable for Kenny to arrive at a check post. It probably just means that his hand was better served as a limp pre. Now he's really on an island. At least if he had started betting flop, he'd have some information available to him. He's just kind of shooting in the dark at this point.
55 is
overbet.
And for an overbet,
Puts Todd in a really tough spot, but
So
he's
bet
just
55 here. I'm going to continue through a call.
yeah.
Could
it's-
be a delayed C bet. Could have a lot of ace X.
You should be concerned with the sizing Kenny chose here.
And
But Queen Jack
still
too
have good
strong to
equity
fold.
here. And I'm going to see what happens on the river. I might be able to make a play at this spot.
Todd looking for a king, queen, jack. It's gonna make things interesting, but
This is gonna be a very comfortable check. Though.
yeah. Okay.
Checks back. Queen jack.
Yeah, Kenny went for a one and done spot there. You'd much rather see it on the flop.
Yes.
You still have the opportunity to potentially barrel, as you do have that backdoor flush draw. But overall, I think the pre-flop strategy there is a little bit flawed.
Yeah.
We should be limping some of the bottom
I
of the
think he
range hand.
can realistically bet pretty big flop. He doesn't have to overbet, but he could bet pretty big. And any hearts, you can continue there.
Yeah, it's difficult though because the texture does lend itself to having a lot of equity to both ranges.
Sure.
I would actually small bet there
If it folds
because
to
we're
me,
just
I'm gonna
giving
play
up
the
on a
same line.
non-heart,
Oh, okay.
and we could potentially polarize on certain hearts.
Okay, so just giving yourself more cheaper options, but you're folding out a lot.
Yeah, because I think that the big blind's pretty inelastic. They're calling with all pairs. They're calling with gut shots and flush draws.
8 is the bet.
The sizing isn't really going to change.
Oh, I like that construction. It's very refined, Berkey.
Thank you.
So
is-
obviously, my commentary is not going to be as complex as Chin's here, but we are going to take him on in the spot.
We'll get you there, Todd. We're going to have you redo this after the Academy in April.
Hey, I really like this group, though. You know,
Yeah.
Sometimes you guys play too high stakes, and
Check.
All right, King 9-6 monotone. I'm just going to want to use small sizing, generally speaking. So it was probably like quarter pot to third pot here with like a lot of my hands anyway. I don't know what I have, so that makes it kind of easy in a way. So 8 plus 1 was 17. So I just want to go like $6 here.
6 is the bet.
So I didn't want to look back at my cards. I didn't want to check for the spade at that point. Now that it's on me, I do have a gut shot here. $6 to me. I think it might warrant a raise here. However, I kind of feel like he does not want me to fold at this point, so he may be stronger than it appears.
Drop.
Ooh.
Check.
Spicy.
All right, we should look. Wow. Well, nothing. I would have played the hand exactly the same way. I think we have a pretty clear. Yeah, this is a pretty clear check. I think that our hand has shifted to showdown value. We can call some river bets. We could also improve to the second nuts. So I think this is a pretty clear check now. Check.
So obviously I turn a beautiful hand here. Question is, what can I get value from? I don't think he may have a spade here, ace X of spades. He might have a 9. He has a ton of continues here, but I guess I'm going to be targeting a 9. Any small pairs, something that might give me some value, but definitely not checking. I'm going to go with 25.
I like it.
25 is the bet.
Keeping size higher a little bit. 'cause he's out of
25.
position.
I mean, our hand's pretty good. I think that he chooses somewhat of a larger sizing. He could have a king. I think that, however, our hand's like a little bit too good. The jack of spades is somewhat of a negative event. I mean, sorry, a jack. Oh, well, I have a queen of spades. It's not that negative at all, actually. Yeah, I mean, this is, I can't think about it too much.
Yeah, this is well played by both.
And funny that Christian Soto didn't actually
nice.
look at his
Check
cards
nice
until turn.
Straight.
Very nice hand.
All right, guys, for those of you just tuning in, thank you so much for tuning in to Run It Up. It is
I think with that exact hands class, he probably should go like pretty big.
Poker out
He
loud.
unblocks me. He unblocks like a lot of things that I like snap call with there.
yeah. Christian, go away real quick.
I think my
Well,
hands
let's turn him
played,
down.
like,
Yeah.
small.
So it is Poker Out Loud, brought to you by Run It Up and S4Y. Matt Berkey in the booth. I am Andre Hengchua. Happy for you guys to be here. We do have 2 academies coming up April 1st to the 3rd. You can get ready for Run It Up Reno. And of course, May 18th to the 22nd, get ready for some WSOP action. Back to the action with more Poker Out Loud. 5-handed, 1-3, no limit.
Gonna go ahead and raise it up here. Got an ace here, small blind. Best hand most of the time.
The Broadway card in my hand here. I'm just going to defend here.
So with this flop, I'm going to go ahead and check. He's probably going to have a lot of continues here, so hopefully I get him to bet, and we go from there.
Check.
Well, if he has continues,
Ace 5-5. We do have the Queen of Hearts, which is good. think. See, when he checks here, I mean, he has some give ups, and I think he can check over some ace-x boards. I think they're really good for his range. That, you know, with this board being this dry, other than the flush draw, we're just gonna go ahead and check back.
Okay, when he checks back here, I probably have him crushed. I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit more money in this pot and see what he does. He does have all the fives and in his range here, so many combos of five. So I'm just gonna be cautious, but I'm gonna put a bet here and see where he's at.
So even though his reasoning isn't great, Todd's actually playing this hand pretty well.
All right, so he bets 15 into roughly half pot. Now we did pick up some equity, some more equity in the hand, so we have a pair. So we're going to call here and see what he does on the next street.
So you like the check back or the check on the flop?
Yeah, you're going to need some checks with some ace-x. Choosing your poor ones that have no ability to make two pair, but do have the
So
ability
when
to
he calls
back into a straight, pretty good spot.
I definitely could have hearts here. There's a lot of combos of hearts in the big blind that he could have called with. I feel like though with two different flush draws out there, if he had a five, he's going to bet here. I do believe I have the best hand here at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and go for a little bit of value.
Too big. Actually, that's okay. Good.
30.
Very good.
All right, so he bets half pot here, which I think he can. Obviously, he still has ace-x in his range, and he can. I think he may check call other pairs. Obviously, some flushes missed. And we do block some of that. I think we're just going to go ahead and look him up here, though.
So both play their hands pretty well here. Sam's kind of correct. He's not going to have a lot of better hands to call with than a 3. He'll have some 9x of hearts that make it this far. It's unlikely he has much ace-x playing a check-back flop strategy. Maybe some, not much. And then I suppose he might have some pocket pairs that he doesn't choose to bet for protection, something like 6s, 7s. But a 3 with, well, I mean, I guess all kickers don't play in this particular instance. Having a 3 in this spot kind of like does fall into the realm of minimum defense.
8.
So you think it's fine to call there?
Yeah, I think it's close, but I think it's fine. He'll have a lot of king high, queen high that just has to fold. So no need to
It's
really
clear
reach.
this is a fold, but Chin's getting pretty out of line with his opens. After I see that he opens 10-7 of spades from effectively hijack because we're 5-handed. So I'm probably going to be looking to 3-bet a lot out of the big blind. Just 3-bet him in general. Somewhere to be?
Huh?
You got somewhere to be?
Just trying to play some hands.
Yeah, I want to do a reality show with these
too,
two
I
as
just have a 3
roommates
though, so.
on the road for like a month. Just the pure odd couple. Like I could just see Chin like dirty clothes everywhere, wears the same shirt and underwear every single day. Chris like very prim and proper, walking around behind him with like a broom and dustpan. Modern day odd couple.
Thank you.
Ace-7, not necessarily a hand I want to limp call with. Like I said earlier, I want to just incorporate a raise-only strategy, especially against Kenny. Something like 3.2x seems very natural here.
Thinking this spot, this hand serves best as a call, especially consider a position post.
Very quick call. That's going to cap his range a little bit, and we're just going to play accordingly. King 8-3. This is a board that I'm going to want to see bet at a high frequency. I could delay with this hand, but I don't think I want to do that. I think I just want to bet and make it a little bit harder on him. Obviously, since I think he's a little bit tighter in nature, I think the rainbow nature of this board is going to make it somewhat difficult for a single barrel to work, just simply because he's going to have a fair amount of suited hands that are going to be incorporating some floats. Excuse me. Let's see what I have here. So ace of club, 7 of spade. Does kind of interact decently okay in terms of blocking some floats. So let's just bet and take it from there. Because I'm out of position on this kind of a board, probably something like 40% is going to be pretty natural. I got this like weird notion that he just like really wanted to fight this hand just the way he threw it in. So we might incorporate some like over bluff double barrels. Okay, so I made a 20. So let's go with 17.
17.
Well, Bochin and I know this is a range advantage flop. He was a pre-flop raiser. He could be pushing his equity and his range on me. Let's find out.
Nope, Kenny. This is not a hand we choose to raise.
So, can you talk to me? Like, is the let's find out method and approach reasonable still? Like,
No.
Does that exist?
Absolutely not. All that happens is he puts himself in a way ahead, way behind
I
spot.
don't really know what this means.
Christian folds here,
this
but he has
isn't really, like,
15%
a
equity
thing,
against
though.
pocket nines.
Yeah.
I think it's just like massive raising here. It just like doesn't make a lot of sense. Well, theoretically, this isn't a thing theoretically, I guess. So like, most of his raises here would just don't buy this shit. Like, the fuck
Chen
is
has a
this
pretty
thing?
negative card in his hand though, with
Guess
both
he
the
can
ace
have,
of
like, a
clubs
little bit
and the
king,
7 of spade.
queen, Let me see what you have. Yeah, you cover.
So Kenny's bluffs here would be like 9-8 of spades, 9-10 of spades.
I mean, I have
7-6
nothing,
of
so like, I
spades.
should just fold. But this just like doesn't make a lot of sense. Like a lot of his king X's would either like raise small or flat. Same thing with like 8s, etc. So like this is just like a lot of like 9-10, a lot of just like maybe Jack 10. He's like polarizing, which like, I don't know. I don't really know what's going on, but I should just fold this before I do something stupid.
Berkey.
All right.
I will say if he did something stupid, it would work, and that's what's even
Yeah.
more problematic with Kenny's play.
Totally. But right now, if I am, normally I like to be pretty active at the tables and look what's going on. I've seen that this has happened to Chin twice now, where he's the pre-flop better. He c-bets and gets raised on a board that he
Wait,
should
the
never
button
get
was-
raised
did
on.
I- what-
It's
what was
it's
the
actually a
raise
sign of
on?
respect. It's
Sorry, Straddle that last
they're fear-based
Straddled last
decisions,
hand?
right?
Did you?
Yeah.
Both Kenny and Todd
Yeah, you did.
landed themselves in spots with very marginal hands
Yep.
that they weren't comfortable bluff catching multiple streets against an opponent who's likely to bluff multiple streets.
Yeah.
So due to that lack of confidence, they just try to reinitiate the aggression in their own favor,
Totally. Totally.
and it works when they have the best hand. It's
Yeah.
as simple as that.
Yeah.
Christian folds when he doesn't have it, and is just going to continue when he does.
But when I see that at the table, and whenever I'm looking for spots against Chin now, where I'm more value heavy, of course he doesn't know, but where I'm at the top of my range in spots, and now that play never ever exists to me in regular games.
Yeah.
And because those two just did it, it now gives me the chance to bully him again.
Well, the irony is it's the opposite. You should be looking for more spots to bluff Chin. He folded
So
both times. But neither of these
my
player
big blind
types
has
are going to
been
find the
raised
appropriate
again.
bluffing candidates because they're choosing the incorrect raising candidate.
for the
Sure,
millionth
sure.
time. So I'm going to go ahead and continue through a 3-bet here. My hand could serve as a call. I think I'm talking myself into a call, but I do have position. I'm gonna keep him wider. Continue through a call here.
Go with your gut, man. This is a clear 3-bet spot. Blind versus blind. You have a top 5% hand. Now it's going to be difficult. You have the ace of spades, so we're not giving up.
In position, but doesn't have the
It's
betting.
definitely a flop that favors the pre-flop caller, so I'm at a disadvantage here.
Kenny's right, but his hand has good enough properties here to c-bet.
So my hand, I think it can turn a ton of equity here with a spade. But when it's checked to me, I probably still have the best hand here a good portion of the time. See if we can get any of his suited broadways or his jack tens, see if we can keep him in there with those.
$25.
Good size. 20 would have been a little bit more preferred, but this is fine.
Is he good? Somewhere? Okay. Sorry.
My bad.
I'd be tempted to float. Stacks are deep enough where I could, but too many cards could get me second best.
Yeah, the check fold here is fine. I do think that he had strong enough properties with his hand and was at the bottom of his range to the point where he could continue through a bet. He'll have other bets on this board texture. He'll have some 8x, some pocket 7s that want protection, some 9-10 with a front door. Hands like that are high enough equity that they're going to want to choose the bet, so it's not like he's never betting this flop.
I'm just gonna again not do what I said I was gonna do, and just open to 10.
10.
Soto can't stop mad dogging Chris.
Definitely in my flat range.
Want to remind you guys, some of these guys here are pros, of course, but we do have a mixed collection of players here, and it's so, a lot of people in Twitch, in chat, are varying levels of skill.
It's kind of interesting trying to figure out how the equities are split, facing a small blind call and a big blind call. Obviously, the big blind should have the most 9s, and the small blind should be most dense to like Jack 10, Queen Jack. The reason I'm trying to figure this out is I'm just trying to figure out my my c-bet frequency. It's probably going to be high because they have a lot of hands. But if I just think about what their responses are going to be, probably serves me to just bet like half, so that the Jack 10, Queen Jack, King Queen region is a little more inclined to call, because that's a lot of combos. I mean, Ace X, I'll get some value from anyway. go 16.
16.
So I somewhat disagree with Chris here.
Had a binary hand to begin with.
I'm guessing Kenny had a pocket pair or a suited connector. I disagree with Chris's analysis in the sense that his hand needs no protection, and the enemy
Yeah, I said I was
unit,
just going to open bigger
if
with
you will,
better hands.
has
That
a
would've
lot
been
of
spot to
9x
do it.
between the small and the big blind.
But
All right, I don't care what he has to
I
say.
think I was just having flashbacks to Chin.
By checking back, you actually do allow a lot of those backdoor hands to turn enough equity where they'll continue
It's hard to stick to a
through
plan,
certain
you know?
bets and attempting to blow you off. So you actually create bluffs by the enemy unit. The problem with betting there, especially for half pot, is that's a really expensive bluff in a multi-way scenario. So when he has king, queen high, that half pot bet sucks. And that's really problematic. Either we should be betting a third pot or just considering having a pretty robust check back range
raise
since we're
here.
at such a 9 disadvantage.
Wow, interesting.
Nice suited connector here. Put pressure on this blind here.
15.
Let's see. Ace jack here, blind on blind. We're just going to 3-bet this. We're definitely ahead of most of his ace X that's going to raise here, based upon exactly what we saw before.
Get him.
Just going to make it 45.
I like it.
45.
Really?
Yes.
He has $300 behind though.
It's fine. We haven't seen enough aggression in these blind versus blind spots.
Okay. I'm scared.
I mean,
So
at 60 big blinds
yeah.
deep, blind versus blind, you can stack off with
haven't
ace
been
jack.
in many pots.
Oh, I read it opposite. I'm
He
sorry.
I see,
decided
I
to
see.
come out swinging. The beauty of my hand is it's an easier one to fold when faced with aggression like this. So I'm going to go ahead and fold.
That's a good fold.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought he had 8-6 suited.
Oh, that would have been aggro.
Thought mistakes were made. All right. Well, apparently Conrad's taking a break.
I think that cues a break for the rest of us.
Okay. Thanks, Conrad. Appreciate it. Guys, if you like what you're watching, give us a follow. Give us a subscribe. Let us know in chat. We'd love to hear from you. Where are we going? Take us on an adventure. Production. We're going to cumulative winnings. So it looks like Todd is up $500.
Only winner. Killing it.
Crushing it.
Killing it.
Just taking a little bit from everyone and a lot of it from Chris. Looks like Chris is the big loser. $230. Remember, Chris lost most of that money to Christian Soto, and Christian Soto gave that mean little slow roll.
The Robin Hood of this table, if you will.
If you guys like what you're watching and you want to play in one of these, well, to be invited to the Run It Up ones, you need to be vetted, all right? You need to be vetted. Oh, yeah, you could have over to Run It Up Reno, too.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
We're going
talk
to set up
about
a
this.
vetting booth at Run It Up Reno.
Yeah. Can we go back, actually? Let's not. I'm not feeling Run It Up Reno right now. Let's go back to the set. Let's go back to the set. Oh, yeah. I love this. Is my favorite transition. That's what I was
nice.
talking about.
That's nice.
The Academy is coming up April 1st to the 3rd. There's only one seat left. Berkey, if someone was like, hey, I want to come, but my sister really, really wants poker help too, can she come? Would you let the sister in?
Yeah, 100%.
All right.
What am I going to
So up to 2 spots left. But you have to have a sister.
do? Sure.
And they have to be in there. All right, April 1st to the 3rd. That is the Cash Game Academy. So talk to me a little about this, Berkey. You split it up. Why is it there one for the Cash Game? Why is there one for MTT Academy?
Well, despite popular belief, there's a vast difference between cash and MTTs. We like to say that tournament poker isn't really poker. You could play tournaments in any gaming format, and poker just happens to be the vehicle in this particular one. But the math behind the decisions is largely based on survival, whereas that's not true in cash. So we spend 5 days fleshing those concepts out, teaching people inflection points in the structure, how to navigate different stack depths, how to navigate blind defense, post-flop play, all these fun little nuanced intricacies of tournament poker.
I've sat into maybe like 5 or 10 minutes of it. I would actually love to sit in just to hear one of your days.
Yeah.
So I can articulate it a little bit better.
Love to have you.
But through the times that I've been there, it's been amazing. And you guys are very refined, very articulate, very developed with your ideas and how you approach everything.
Thanks.
So,
I appreciate that.
a big, big stamp of approval, a Grey Torp stamp of approval for the Academy, April 1st to the 3rd, May 18th to the May 22nd. After the Cash Game Academy on April 1st, you can head on over to Run It Up Reno number 10. Wow, my production is so awesome. They just know. April 3rd to the 13th. So you go, you train up at the Academy, and then you hang out with us. All of us. Berkey's going to be there.
That's right.
Andy's going to be... Andy, are you going to be there? Screw you, Andy. Andy's not going to be there. Christian Soto is going to be there. Conrad will be there. Hang out with us. Relax. I know for sure. I talked to Berkey about this. We've nonstop been putting together a dance number for the karaoke night, 9 p.m. Tuesday the 7th. Make sure you're there. And of course, the main event, $600 buy-in, $47,000 for first place last time.
Wow. Dan O'Brien win it?
That was 2 sessions ago.
Okay.
Let's not bring up the past. Book your room now with code REU2020. Again, runitupreno.com. Make sure, if you're liking us, follow us here on Twitch, over there on YouTube, and over here on Twitter, Instagram. You can check us out at Run It Up and Run It Up TV. Don't forget to give Berkey a follow. This is brought to you by S4Y. After all, it is only with them that we can do productions like this. Berkey, every time we do these, we get the best viewership that we have.
I love to hear that because I'm in the dark, It's just like we stream sometimes. Seems like people like it.
And honestly, these Poker Out Louds and our high stakes games are the first time that I actually feel passionate about the things that we're doing.
Yeah.
Else, my soul is dead. Twitter.com/Solve4YTV, Instagram.com/Solve4Y Academy. Check them out on YouTube. They put out a lot of great free content. Even I show up in some of those vlogcasts.
True story.
All right. So you're wondering, what is it that you can get at the Solve4Y website? That is tv.solve4y.io. Well, I would love to show you guys with this video. Check it out.
So I'm heads up here against Nick. I think Nick's range flatting the button is relatively wide here, but the problem with me having this specific hand in this spot is that it opens up a lot of the higher portions of his range that interact with this board reasonably well. It's a board that gives me a substantial, well, not that substantial of a range advantage, but a range advantage. And it also gives him a lot of continues. So the option I'm going to go for, I think, is to check raise this hand, given that I flopped a backdoor spade draw and that gut shot. I think it functions really well as a check raise because if I get floated by ace deuce, the 4 is the gin card, and I think also I get a lot of bet folds from hands like jack 10 of spades, some queen jacks, hands like that. So we're going to check and we're going to go for a check raise.
Okay, Matt's checking. It's going to be kind of interesting playing against him because he knows a lot of my moves. This hand's definitely going to fall into an optimal betting range because it just has good equity, good robust equity qualities with my backdoors. So not too much thought here, and I don't think I'm too out of line. Just a pretty simple half pot standard bet.
35.
So Nick bets 35 here, which is just over half pot, or around half pot, I think, actually. We're going to follow through on the check raise plan, but I want to just talk a little bit about my plan through the streets here. I think if I check raise and I pick up a spade, I'm going to be barreling. If I pick up an 8, I'm going to barrel. If I pick up a 9, maybe. I think like a 9 of diamonds I would probably shut down. I think that the deuce could be a potential barrel card, given that it's going to change very little, except for maybe ace 4, so maybe not a deuce. But we have a certain number of barrel cards, and I think that the check raise plan is still what I want to go with here against this sizing. So in terms of sizing, I think that given that he bet relatively small, I can go somewhat large with the check raise. I think that around 125 is probably going to be good.
1.25.
Okay, Matt's check raising, which is something that usually works as a pretty effective exploit with a hand that has any decent amount of equity, just in terms of versus the player pool trend. It's also a big part of our detox strategy, which I know Matt's aware of, which creates just this really weird dynamic right off the jump, which is that he's using my own satellites against me. I don't exactly have a peelable hand, in theory. And I think I'm going to start off just playing relatively sound because I really just don't know where Matt's head is at exploitatively. So this is a hand that's a fine fold, in theory, without me getting exploited, and I'm just going to sort of toe that line for now. I wasn't prepared for that either. Like, I knew he was going to be there, but then when I got into hands with him, my mind suddenly realized that we were playing our own strategies against each other. I dropped an Independence Day quote that I don't know if anybody caught either, which I was pretty proud of when I said he's using my own satellites against me. They're using our own satellites against us.
The online cash that I've been playing lately, I've been playing kind of as part of like Nick's sort of stable, his group of guys that he stakes as a bit of an experiment because of these projects that he and I are working on together. So I've been implementing a lot of the strategy that he advises or he recommends for his players. And a lot of that involves, in a situation like that where you raise, you get called by someone who has position on you, part of it involves checking your entire range in that situation. That's a recommendation that Nick gives to a lot of his players. So something that I don't think I said in my analysis in the process of playing that hand, but that was at the back of my mind, is that if I had decided to just bet there instead of checking, then that would have instantly been something that would have caused Nick to shift his perspective on the situation, because he would have expected me to check all my hands there. But the reality is that even if he knows that I'm checking all my hands there, check raising with a hand like 6-7, for the reasons that I identified in my analysis, which I think is just that I unblock a lot of his bet fold hands and things like that. It's sort of like, even if he knows that I'm checking all my hands, I can still check raise that hand and do pretty well. It was a spot where I had the opportunity, if I wanted to kind of take a line that I knew would maybe confuse Nick a little bit more, but I felt like that might have also confused me.
And that's what you can kind of expect from tv.s4y.io. Check it out. It is Matt Berkey's very own site. He built it from the ground up. I saw him. He was in the back right before this programming that website to make it possible. And then I saw him editing afterwards.
You're not far off, I gotta tell you.
Berkey,
I didn't actually program it.
We've traveled very similar roads to get where we are right now. I mean, of course, you've done the whole gambling thing. I did the whole esports things.
Yeah.
But to where we are now, we had to do a lot of grunt work.
It's not going to end.
No, it never does.
It's not going to end. I mean, until I'm manning like a 30 or 40 man team, and I have other people who I can say like, why didn't that get done to? Then I'm just gonna be in there getting my hands dirty.
Well, you can help out Matt Berkey by going to tv.self4y.io. Check out his courses. Check out, not only does he do academies, but he also has a repository of, who was it that said it was some of the best content in the world of poker? It was like
a person we would give
Pads.
credence to. Oh yeah,
Pat said that.
he said it was innovative,
Yeah.
which I appreciate. That was very nice of him.
Check it out, guys. I mean, you have billions of hours of content out there. And yes, it does go over some of the stuff that other websites do, but I think it's packaged in a way that's much more consumable than hello everybody and welcome to another GTO course. My name is Matthew Berkey and we are here today.
Yeah, we try not to do too much of that.
No.
It's not my style.
So as you can see, the players are getting ready. We're going to start up Poker Out Loud once again. I hope you guys are liking it. Please follow Matt Berkey also. Isn't it like Berkey 11?
Oh, you're getting into a shitstorm if you can start following me on Twitter.
Oh yeah.
It's Berkey 11. I got things to say.
Berkey 11. You know, he loves to straddle that line of, am I going to fully engage or not? So he says things that's like, I'm going to start this conversation, but then let everybody else respond to it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I worry I'm not likable, Andre. You know? I think that I might be towing that line a little bit.
I mean, I think you are sometimes likable. If that makes
Sometimes likable seems reasonable to me.
I mean, you're not full Dan O'Brien level.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean,
he's hunkered down trying to avoid the corona, man.
Well,
I'm here to embrace
no.
it. I say give me the corona.
That's not true. He's hunkered down because he got banned off of Twitter for 3 weeks
Oh yeah, that is true.
for calling someone the C word. Apparently you can get banned. I mean, they did have a Twitter check mark.
Sure. So does Dan, I think. Maybe
No,
not.
he doesn't.
Maybe not.
There's
feel
not
like
many
they just
people.
It's crazy, man. I feel like they give them away. Sometimes I'll see somebody with like 3,000 followers, just
Mhm.
blue check mark.
A little bit of Twitch Banksy artwork. You know, I went to there's a Banksy artwork museum here in Las Vegas,
Really?
and I was so excited for it. Really respect his work.
Yeah.
Really did not respect the museum.
Sure. Is it real?
I don't know exactly how to explain what is real to you, like the real artwork.
Yeah, were they real Banksies?
I have no clue. I believe a lot of them were prints, which really annoyed me.
Oh, I see.
And a lot of his artwork is about anti-capitalism, and they're charging $30 a head and $60 a hoodie.
Did you ever see the video of the Banksy artwork that auctioned off for like
Yes.
7 figures and then just shredded itself?
Yes.
Amazing.
And then tripled in price.
yeah, of course. Why wouldn't it? We can make a market out of it.
All right, guys, let's get back into the second half of Poker Out Loud, S4Y edition. That's when the audio goes up.
I'm just gonna let this go.
100% win rate.
Andre confirmed. Fuck you.
Excuse me.
So, for those of you just tuning back in or tuning in for that you're new, this is Poker Out Loud. Everybody has headsets on.
Six
They can't
Straddle.
hear each other. And right now, the only person that is up is Kenny, right here. Kenny in the Under Armour shirt. He's up $500.
Wait, Kenny's winning? No,
No, Todd.
So
Todd.
different
Sorry.
opening here. Ace 9 of diamonds. Opened up Ace 9 offsuit earlier. 5-handed though. I believe Ace 9 goes way up in value.
20.
This would be a reach.
So they're suited. Good fold, good fold. Yeah, so as you can see, they talk about their thought process, and we have players all over the spectrum. So we have pros in this game. This is shorthanded, but we have pros in this game. Christian Soto would be considered pro. Then we got like, intermediate, advanced players like Chris, sitting in seat 1. And other players are kind of scattered around. They are definitely looking to all refine their game. So they have, poker as one of the main things of which they want to get better at. So I hope a lot of these guys can kind of relate to you guys at home, even though I know you're all, poker professionals, top 1%.
Suited king here. Want to come in for a raise. Pretty standard. I think we're going to want to just come in for the standard 20.
20.
Chat pros in the house. I know. I see you. I see you, Ghost of M. I know how good you are. You guys are so funny in chat.
They go hard.
Sort of the same category as the ace deuce offsuit. But again, I don't expect much aggression from the blinds. And Chin's just going to have nothing sometimes. There's a lot of combos of nothing. So
there are a lot of combos of nothing.
Christian has a combo of nothing.
Or does he?
Or does he? Nope. It's nothing. Ooh, Kenny doesn't have nothing. It's like a top 0.1% hand.
This is a really good 3-bet spot for Kenny.
Raise. 55. Fold.
So facing a small blind 3-bet, your 4-bet bluffs make a lot more money if they're playing a binary strategy. So if you know that your opponent is playing a 3-bet or fold out of the small blind, then they have a lot more folds facing a 4-bet. I don't really think Kenny's going to be getting too out of line here. I've also seen him flat the small blind a lot. Probably just has a good hand. I, again, get caught immediately. So.
Poor Chris. So deflated.
Hero Day asks, Andre, are we having another meetup game with squats and push-ups?
At 10,
Yes, we
Kenny.
are. So we did
Kenny.
red, black. Half the table
Kenny.
chose red, half the table chose black.
Okay.
We went up to
At 10.
30 squats
I had one of your
for
outs.
3 reds
Yeah?
or 3 blacks.
Wow. I love this.
And my nemesis was Ebony Kenny,
Sure.
and she must have done, I kid you not, like 700 squats and push-ups throughout the whole night.
It sounds like she chose poorly.
She did.
8 is the bet.
I actually think Ebony will be in Austin with us. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, have fun.
She lives down there.
She's a great human being.
Yeah. Shout out Ebony Kenny.
Hi. Come at me, bro.
King Queen versus Shins. Pretty sure it's opening most of his range here. We're just going 3-bet here. 8.
35. Fold.
One for the good guys. I'm with you, Samuel. I think I could take him, though. I know he's a big guy.
He's a small dude.
Samuel?
He's a monster.
I still think I could take him, though.
You know jiu-jitsu. I'm sure he
Big
doesn't.
forearms. Yeah. But, this is what we like to do. This is the fun part about.
This is what it's like being a small guy.
Yeah,
Just sizing up the competition.
exactly.
I like that.
production says we could just
gonna
turn
open it up here.
the studio into a ring. I'm down.
Jack 9 of diamonds. Good playability.
10. Can the little man in the printer send me down something funny, please?
Going to defend. Defense is much more relevant facing a big blind defense. It's much more relevant facing a late position open. Suited 10.
Shut up and do your job.
And we mean it.
I said funny, you douchebags.
Check.
This is the kind of professionalism you get when you hire Conrad Simpson.
I'm going to go ahead and continue here. Pretty.
These are tough spots when you're unstudied.
This
So-
board texture, just
So Todd
15
recognizes
is
he
hit
has
it or he doesn't.
pretty big
Kind
advantage
of odd
here.
size from Todd.
Chris
We
recognizes
have
the
no
size
equity
is very poor.
and an auto fold.
Because Todd can do that with
Sorry.
$10.
You can do it with $7.
Yeah, yeah. Complex is all the same thing.
Right, there's so much nothing in Chris's range, and that's really all that you're trying to get to fold.
Yeah. He's almost stronger when he checks back too. I think he
Somewhat of a
could do a
bigger
lot of check back
sizing on
plays.
that board, 15 into 20.
Is that true?
Probably just like something to be aware
The
of.
check
Probably
backs you
betting
would
too
want to
many hands
have
on
there, I
a
think,
board
would
that he's betting
be
too,
hands that don't necessarily need protecting, like queens.
Oh, interesting.
Some of your ace highs. So if you have like the ace of spades,
6 to go.
you're already just like winning right now, but when you get check raised, it's a pretty negative event.
Okay. Makes sense.
Top of range, we're gonna keep doing what we've been doing. Expect a fair amount of resistance, given that this will be the third time. So let's go with 20.
20.
It's funny because as a commentator, you long for these down moments where there isn't much going on. Like a hand like this, you want to take place right after a big hand. What you don't want to see is like 3 hands in a row,
Straddle.
or it's just raise and take.
There are so many times I want to go back to hands.
Yeah,
I know the moment's over,
yeah.
so it's just dead. Maybe I'll talk to you after the stream.
In YouTube Poker Out Loud, I limped this hand on the button.
It was bad then, Chris. Let's see if it's equally as bad now.
And got crucified. I was just the most hated poker player for several days. Pretty happy to open into this small blind, or sorry, into this big blind and straddle with a suited 9.
I think in a straddle pot, you can actually start folding these hands. I know it seems like there's more incentive because there's more dead money out there, but you have to get through 3 ranges instead of 2. And 9-4 doesn't perform very well.
Yeah, but you block pocket 9s and pocket 4s.
Well, I mean, that's valid.
Do they keep breaking? Chin.
But
And Chris, the way you look at cards is breaking them. When you go like this and you're snapping them like that.
Me?
Oh, Chris is the
Yeah,
worst.
Both of you.
Okay.
I've had to
Mindful.
scold him
Sorry.
so many times playing on these RFID cards. Just like, you want to know what it is? Both Chris and Chin they're prima donnas in the sense that professional athletes, like baseball players in particular, how they have their like routines in the batter's box. You know, the old Jeter, the A-Rod, like, you know, 27 different things with the batters. Like their version of the flamboyance, the peacocking is like snapping the cards really hard, firing the bets out in a certain way.
Yep. Ronda Rousey did that in her walkout.
Yeah.
She always pound her legs and her arms.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
like,
these guys do the same thing, huh?
Yeah. It's like, okay, in sport, I can barely tolerate it. In poker, absolutely not going to stand for it.
Good job.
Had this identical spot like 3 times now, and every time I've gotten punished, so I'm just gonna. That could be kind of results oriented, but I'm just facing a little bit more aggression than I anticipated. So, gonna tighten up a little bit. Having chin on my left is pretty annoying.
You got annoying status. That's always nice.
There's nothing more that I love than
Okay,
rivalry.
looks like he has his
poker.
hand.
I
His
agree
left
with
hand
that.
is ready to fold. That's good for us. We're gonna raise it up.
Sweet.
It's gonna be fun. You know, in my old gym, Berkey, I have the record for. So, I tend to like to shit talk a lot.
Okay.
A lot, Berkey.
Again, a byproduct of being a small guy.
Yeah, might be.
Okay.
Might be East Coast thing too.
Yeah,
East Coast
okay,
people
I can
love
see
to
that.
shit talk.
Agreed.
But especially in sports, I love to shit talk.
Sure.
And I'm the only person where in jiu-jitsu, the opponent has gotten up and just decked someone in the face. It's never been done before
We're
in the
gonna fold
history
this
of
one.
Wow.
You know, this is outside of construction. I've been playing a lot of hands. So
the
it
history of
doesn't
that
take a
gym,
while.
and it still hasn't happened. It happened about 2.5 years ago.
So you're trying to tell me that you got knocked the fuck out.
I didn't get knocked out.
Okay, but you were not feeling good.
I'm
I
gonna
fell.
Open here.
Yeah. Sure.
I imagine Chris has a lot of continues in the big blind. So I imagine we're going to be going to a flop.
10.
Anyway, I take that same idea and bring it to poker.
I like that.
I just want people to punch me in the face.
Right. I think that's a good approach, actually.
Gotta fold something.
Not that many continues, I guess.
Womp, womp.
Takes it down. But yeah, you know what, to me, especially with better players, Berkey, obviously you're a better player than me. I am not going to try to play the game of poker. I'm going to try to get you into metagame waters as fast as possible.
I like this.
And the only way to do that is to shit talk.
I gotta tell you though, it never works when the tightest guy at the table is the one talking shit. You know, it's just like,
Yeah.
who are you trying to kid, man? We haven't seen you put a chip in the pot in the last.
No. I am not risk averse. That is
Okay.
for sure.
All right.
Don't get me wrong.
I don't know. I heard
scared.
about your monthly spend.
I get scared. Yeah, with that.
I think not a
Of
lot
course.
can go wrong with just completing the straddle. That way I just get to involve myself versus 200% ranges. Can't be that bad. I got the suited hands, some playability. See what happens.
All right, Berkey, tell me how bad this is.
it's actually fine. His
I was just kidding.
reasoning behind it isn't very confident. I think he should probably think a little bit deeper about how he wants to split between limps and raises.
Okay.
But 7-4 suited is a cusp hand. It's fine. I think folding. I think he could do all three, to be honest, at some frequency.
I just don't buy this from Chris. Like, first time he just like limps here. It seems like he just wants to be able to VPip a fair amount here. My hand's pretty trash, but I do have to play either through a steal or through a limp. Now, because I think Chris is like fairly weak here, I think that maybe I just go for the steal. just simply because me being 3-way with Jack-8 off kind of sucks. I could just also just make it like pretty big here, like 35, and then maybe just take it down. Let's try it. I mean, I think it's a little bit out of line. The preferred play would be to just like limp and take the pot, take the hand out that way. So let's just kind of see what happens.
I think this is unnecessarily large. Christian
35?
rationing out the prisoner's dilemma in the midst of his conversation. Given this large size, I'd like to see Kenny see through it and recognize that he has a good bluffing candidate in ace-9. It's unfortunate.
Another reason why I didn't want to straddle is I'm just less studied in 3-blind formations.
These young nerds,
After I
man,
just call
they
here,
can't
I
ever
thought
feel
that
their
Jim
way
would
through
probably
a
see
spot.
through that because he'll know that I know that there's a lot of value to raising Kenny's straddle, but depending on how many levels deep into the meta I want to go, maybe I could take some hands that I limp and limp re-raise them, but probably not some that have no removal effect whatsoever.
Woof.
Yeah, that's a spot where we want to go pretty big when we do raise because, like we saw, our incentive is for us to complete because we're getting such a good price and we're kind of in that middle portion of range. So we're incentivized to complete, and I know I'm moving away from my incentives, so I'm going big to kind of compensate for that. Not necessarily a play that is going to be approved theoretically, I think, but something that I think we can incorporate when Chris chooses the limp option there for the first time, at least for sure. I don't think he's balancing it right away.
Man, if I was like 60 big blinds deep on that straddle position, I love jamming there so freaking much.
Yeah.
I know it's a little bit unrefined. And
No.
there's better sizing sometimes.
No, it's actually probably fine.
But
Kenny was way too deep to do it. At
Yes,
1,000.
I agree.
But yeah, I agree with you.
In a regular live game, I would obviously straddle with everybody else. But this isn't really an environment where I'm trying to like stimulate action. I mean, it could be, but I care a lot less in this kind of environment than like an Aria 2-5 or whatever.
this is what I do, by the way. I just fantasize about spots. Like, man, if I was right here, I could just jam it on Christian.
I was just going to open without saying anything, but I probably have to balance that a little bit since Jin's clearly paying attention. Probably going to mix in some 4-bets here if I get 3-bet on the button.
Man, I haven't looked at the Twitch chat in a minute, but the YouTube chat has fucking railed. I can't even moderate it at this point.
You've gotten too deep, YouTube chat. Too deep. Come back.
It's turned into like personal attacks on one another. Tournament players versus versus cash players.
See, us Twitch guys are so civilized, you know?
Yeah, you guys have avatars.
Should have a lot of checks in this
Oh, boy.
formation. This board favors the blinds, more the big blind than the small, but we have a hand that can't c-bet. Our c-bets should be pretty polar, less polar given that it's all late position, but still going to have a lot of checks on this kind of texture. We don't remove anything, have no equity really besides 2 overcards. Just one
Kenny
check.
actually very well could have led this flop. Really favors a small blind defender here.
25.
He has a natural lead on the turn. I don't know at what point he decided to no longer speak. I think he's.
Interesting that Kenny just sort of snap bet.
We're gonna
there,
have to
not saying anything. Don't know what that means. Doesn't
have
really matter
production
because I
buddy.
have king high on 6, 7, 9.
If maybe Conrad at some point could remind Kenny that the purpose of the game is to speak your thoughts out loud, unless
Yeah. Here.
he's decided he doesn't have any.
How about also airmail?
So
Yeah, there you go.
On season
Kenny.
1 of the academy, I was so fucking tilted, and I just feel the same thing happening to Chris and Jordan.
They requested you speak a little.
And
Speak a little this time. Let me do it.
All right.
and Jordan at the time.
I just couldn't think of anything intelligent to say. Or then Chris is full of shit this hand, so.
That works.
I like that production clearly had Christian Soto to focus in on.
Yes.
And
6,
instead,
7
they
off
chose
kinda
to put
sucks.
Kenny on
Big time.
blast. They're just, let's focus in. I'm yelling at this dude right now.
I like it.
Definitely in our opening range.
15.
Who's going to defend here?
Heads up action. Check.
This is borderline neutral flop, but I like where I stand, so see if we can't get there.
I think
15.
you're already there, Kenny.
Yeah. Yeah, we are. We are at our final destination in this hand.
Same vantage board for him. We have obviously more deuces in our hand than he does. I think we're just gonna let this one go. Although I really just want to raise for nothing. Oh,
Nice.
Damn it.
StarCraft, we call that star sense. Just you know. You just know
Alright, so I'm gonna
something's
finish that
coming.
story. So, season 1 of Poker Out Loud, I was like pretty rattled, and I think Chris is pretty rattled now. And one of the things that happened was the person on my left ended up putting their chips all super close to me, and it used to annoy the shit out of me. So now I'm gonna actually do that to Chris. I'm just gonna move my chips all the way where like it almost bothers him.
Big blind.
He was way too obvious about it.
I know.
Jordan did a way better
I
job
know.
trolling.
He's like, I'm going to slowly do it. He
Yeah.
just moves everything over.
No.
You know what I do in those spots?
Knock him over.
Knock him over.
Yeah.
Not all of it, just a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
suited jack, we're just going to put this in our limping range here.
Cool.
Yeah, I would like to see an open here.
Interesting.
Kind of works out.
Small
though.
blind super incentivized to raise just in general. Because I'm playing 100% of hands as the big blind, and this money's sort of up for grabs. Pretty good hand. Gonna raise, seize the initiative, and maybe get some value.
12. Call. Check.
So I obviously can't know what kind of range he is going to limp call. In general, I could take a guess though. It's likely not any premiums. It seems pretty natural with like small pocket pairs, potentially some weaker ace highs, but no strong hands really want to take this line. I would guess that all those hands are pretty inelastic on the flop, just the small pocket pairs and the ace highs. So I'm just going to go for an exploit there and bet a larger size.
20.
Bye-bye. Man, poor Sam hasn't picked up anything.
He bets like right up under pot.
What do you think about this, Berkey?
I disagree
Yeah,
that
some backdoor equity.
Sam's range is
Not a
inelastic
ton.
here. I think if Chris bets
We're
Six.
just gonna let it go.
the Jack 6 of diamonds is in a weird spot where it has to defend at some frequency.
Sure, yeah. Queen highs.
In general,
yeah.
on a
It's like a lot
texture
of
like
no pair
that,
hands in his range.
where so little equity is available, my sizes are going to be smaller.
To me, it's just
But I think there's a lot of room for exploits
what's a Sam
in live
catch up?
poker. Guess he
Yeah.
doesn't have
Yeah.
anything because he had like 6 8
Also,
suited
it's
or
really
something.
difficult to find the hands that Chris would choose as bluffs for that size.
Yeah.
Especially on a rainbow board. Nothing really
100?
lends itself to doing that.
Yes. And I like to think of this, but how many streets of value am I realistically going to get with
Definitely
that
opening
blind
range.
versus blind? It's not quite a blind, but
Right.
15.
you know,
Right. You're hopeful for 3, but the reality is you're probably restricted to 1 or 2.
sure, yeah.
All right, facing the 5x, we should be playing relatively snug. So I'm actually just gonna fold this hand. Keep teasing me with the first card. Second card's trash.
Yes.
First. Yo, what's that steakhouse we go to?
Echo and Rig.
Here. The steakhouse we always
Shout
go
out
to
Echo and
together
Rig.
as a group.
Oh, Echo and Rig.
Huh? Echo and Rig.
Never been there.
6.
Oh my God. CEO dinner on
King
me,
Jack
buddy.
under the gun.
We'll have a meeting of the minds. You
we're
like
just
meat?
going to race here.
I love meat.
Still
Or
expect
she
some
do.
resistance here. We're gonna make it.
Why do you make it sound so
25.
weird?
25?
There's no good answer to that.
No, you're
Our,
right. It was, not. It was a setup.
Hands should be pretty good here, facing a 5x, basically 4.2x from a 50 big blind stack. 1, 2, 3, 40. If I were in any other position besides the button, this would be a super clear fold, I think. Pretty natural call versus a deeper stack. Yeah, fuck it.
Oh, the fuck
Another
it
straight.
play. Let's go.
That's
25?
that's refined poker play coming out from Solve for Y, ladies and
I
gentlemen.
gotta tell you, man, 2020, when 10-8 suited is that long of a debate on the button, it's like this game has changed, man. The only debate
So-
6 years ago would have been like, am I 3-betting this or am I
Open it.
definitely calling?
Under the gun here, 25 again. Hasn't played very many pots. Chris calling on the button. I mean, he's definitely has a nice wide calling range. I could 3-bet here,
Yes.
Mandatory.
Mainly because of
but
Samuel's
I'm
stack
not
size.
so sure I'm going to get under the gun to fold.
You don't care. He'll only shove dominating hands.
I think I'm going to go ahead and call and see what develops.
So Todd could make it like 85 or 90 here, putting Sam in a push or fold situation. And once that much of his stack is at risk, it's a situation where he's probably only going to shove hands that dominate king queen anyway. So you don't lose
So,
anything. Now he's in a
With
very
this flop
tough
here,
spot. He actually might get away
I'm
from
going to
it.
go ahead and
Yes.
bet
With the action in
for
behind him.
protection.
Oh,
denial.
he's gonna lead this board.
We don't want to do that. You don't have leads
I
from the
think,
big blind here.
I have a best hand most of the time.
If he believes that to be true, he should be trying to check raise Samuel.
Oh my God!
35.
Call Katy Perry.
35?
Dodds is okay.
All right, so
You're supposed to ask why call Katy
hit by
Perry.
as
Why
good
call
a flop
Katy
as we
Because
can.
fireworks. Okay, you ruined it.
So we're top two. The pot is a little over 80. He's leading into the pot for 35. I think with Chris behind, we're just gonna go ahead and put in a raise right here. He has a lot of pair plus, well, not pair plus draws, but he has a lot of draws that he can have on this board. Queen 10, ace queen. He can also have flush draws and some king X as well. We are going to make this 20, 35. See, we're sitting on 315. We're gonna bet a little over about a third of our stack, so I'm gonna make it 115.
I like this size.
115?
Yeah, Todd leading is pretty insane. Fuck this whole hand up. 115. Yeah, this is sort of the problem with entering the pot with hands that make middling equity
Well, that's not
versus
true.
stacks that are going to be all in a lot. I think my flush draw is going to be good enough of the time. The under the gun opener doesn't really have any higher flush combinations because the king, the jack, the 10 I remove. So I don't really expect him to be opening, under the gun. So effectively, hijack, right? Wait, no, cut, because straddle, cut off. That complicates things a little bit, but he shouldn't, in theory, be opening mergey hands like queen 9 suited. Really, I should just be dead to ace queen of clubs. But he has like ace king too and jacks and stuff. Really wish Todd just checked. Then I could just call 115. He's 200 left.
So remember, Chris only invested $25.
I don't expect Todd to have any nutted hands really. I think he's probably just leading like some king X.
Yeah.
He has the 10 of clubs, which is such a
25,
important card.
110.
Yeah, I think with 10-9 of clubs, you can make a case for him having to stack off.
So I'm getting like
in this particular
getting
spot,
2 to
he
1.
just has to fold.
Could be dominated by the straddles lead. Also, he could just have like ace 5 of clubs.
He's actually
Kind of a
lucky
spot here.
that Todd let out here.
Well, kind of. If Todd doesn't lead, he's just going to get to see a turn card because he's just going to go bet, call, call. It's unlikely that King Queen's going to check.
Oh, that's true, right? Use your words.
I don't know. This seems pretty neutral EV to me, depending on Todd's continuance. Feels kind of stupid to call a raise and then muck on a texture like this, but there's no depth. I'm getting like 2 to 1.
Yeah, and as we can see, he's overfolding in accordance to his equity available versus the field.
Yes.
But it's impossible to know that. For
It's
nobody else to have clubs,
So-
Totally.
it's like
Totally.
so unlikely.
He raises, Chris folds. Seemed like he had some sort of a tougher decision to make. He definitely has ace, king, aces, kings, jacks, all those in his range. I don't. I guess ace, queen of clubs. I think I'm gonna make a hero fold.
Yeah, we put ourselves on this island.
Yeah.
I think my lead is pretty strong
I think you meant
into 2 players. And
Disincentivized.
he didn't care. I hope I am not folding top pair poorly, but I think I'm gonna fold.
yeah. It's a good exploitative decision when it's all said and done, but the lead is heavily disincentivized there, especially with Samuel's stack size. When Samuel c-bets that board for like 30 and Chris calls, now we could just check raise with king queen.
Yeah.
Because
If you
we can
choose to
stack
lead
off
an
against
advantage board,
Samuel, it's
You
okay.
really need to have.
And you got a lot of really interesting
because their
situations
range
where
is gonna
Chris
find not
calls
only a
there,
lot of raises and a lot of aggression, but
or
also a
Chris
lot of good
folds.
hands.
But those two different options, you get to do a lot of different things based on that.
Strong range.
Right.
Sizings, etc.
You just learn so much more about the field
Yes.
without investing any money.
Yes. I like how he navigated it, but his
Standard open here. Just gonna talk for like 2 seconds. So
I hate this.
10.
I can't stand New Age poker, man. He feels like he needs to balance his talking range. I can't breathe. Like, come on, man. No one's reading into it. Like, oh my God, Chris
So
didn't speak. He must
I'm
have
gonna be working
deuces.
this into my 3-bet range. Gonna have to play one against Chris here, and I'd rather get a fold out of position, but my hand plays well, post flop as well.
how do you feel about this hand in particular being used as a 3-bet candidate?
It's actually one of the better ones. His sizing, I believe, might be a little small. Oh, no, 10 to 50 is fine. Yeah, this is really well constructed. Chris should just have a pretty natural call here.
Good size from Todd here. I don't know if he's recognizing that it's his incentive to call from the big blind, so he should be sizing up a bit more because the range is going to be a little bit more polar since so many hands should just be calling. I definitely have a 4-bet candidate here, but I think this is a really under-bluffed spot. I don't really expect Todd to be coming after me light, especially from the big blind. I do love to 4-bet this hand, though, given its double blocking effect. It could be better if he's merging a little bit, but that seems unlikely, just based on my feeling. Like, I don't think he would really have like 9s or king, queen off, those types of hands, just probably defend. I don't know if I can help myself, though. Definitely the biggest leak in my game is my mental game.
You know, Todd is only doing this because...
Wait. Chris is having a breakdown.
Well, I'm telling you why he's having a breakdown, though.
Folding good hands.
Because Todd is only doing this because he...
All right.
He talked for only 2 seconds.
Maybe. That could be it.
He noticed.
I don't care for a fold here.
Show on, Todd.
I don't care for a fold here. I think Chris is reading into too much to the fact that he perceives Todd to be a value-heavy profile.
Hate it.
It's a little different if Chris has a hand like, I don't know, ace-9 off that just doesn't really have much equity versus the 3-bet range. But like ace-jack off, it's doing pretty well, and it's dominating some of the hands that Todd might be 3-betting there.
Sure.
Chin fucking moving is dumb. Stack.
Ace 4 off, kind of just the bottom here.
Eight. Check.
Here, I'm just gonna, against this player, I'm just gonna third pot like all big blinds, like all like situations where like it's big blind versus me. I'm just gonna third pot like 100 and let him kind of respond. I think this hand functions okay in that vein as well. So I made it 8, 16, 17. So let's just go with 6.
6 is the bet.
I like it.
Good size.
6.
What is that?
6.
6. All right, I expect Chin to bet this here pretty frequently. Pretty dry board. We're gonna still defend here.
Yeah, this is good. He has to continue here. 3 to a straight, king high, likely to be the best hand at some frequency. Going to turn equity at a reasonable rate as well.
Check.
All right, so we have ace 4, no club. Meaning that we don't get to barrel. Like if we barrel here and the river was a club, maybe we could barrel through again. We do beat some hands like 6, 7. We beat 6, 7, 9, 7. And then he also like shares some ace highs with me. So I think we just like check, try to show down. Sometimes maybe reopen the betting on like a queen, a jack, a king, something like that. So I'm going to choose to check.
Bink.
This is nice for
This is a
Sam.
range card for him. I expect him to bet this card definitely with a lot of his nothing that's given up because it's a good card for him. And what we're going to do, we're just going to bluff catch and check from here.
Actually, this is a kind of cool thing.
Okay, so
he could
the
just block
decision
bet.
is, do we try to get him off like an 8 of some sort? He does contain some 5x's in this range, that of which he might check raise at some frequency. We do knock him off some like slightly better ace highs, say something like ace jack offsuit that he might have just like check called with. He doesn't have too many king x's in range, some of which he might fold on the flop, some of which he bets this river with. You know, there's conflicting interest here. I think that we can check and just showdown beat hands like 6-7, 9-7, maybe something like that. But he does have a lot of 8. The question is, does he fold a fair amount of 8s here? Not sure. But you guys came to see a show, so I'm not just gonna like check, you know? So let's see, 20, there's like 30 in the middle. I think we go like pretty big. See what he decides with an 8. He's sitting with 400. Okay.
$70 is the bet.
This is ambitious.
What much is that? 70?
Yes.
All right, so he overbets here. It's really polar. I guess he can do this with all his king X.
You don't care.
Yeah.
That beats us. He can have some 5x, ace 5.
Unlikely.
He may have played this way. Yeah, I just think at this point we're probably just still going to pay this off.
Good man.
Call.
Got him.
Good job. And that's what makes the check so good. In a general sense, he's incentivized to block bet that river.
Okay. I mean,
because he
targeting
doesn't
that hand.
he doesn't want to face that overbet when he has 8x.
Uh-huh.
And Christian's very unlikely to raise a king. However, Christian's good enough to raise a king, especially if he thinks that like Samuel wouldn't play a 5 through a blocking lens on the river, which most players just tend not to, right? They'll just have a 5 there and be like, oh, I have the nuts, 2x pot, right? So if Christian recognizes an imbalance there, then he's very likely to get thin with king X, rendering a block bet pretty useless for an 8.
Maybe I will.
So the simplification is to just like check most of those hands, including your king X's that get there, and try to induce like these types of bluffs. Because Christian will also have some 6-7, and he'll have some hands that like he may overvalue.
Chin's raised it up to 8. Definitely gonna play here in position, ultimate position here, and we haven't played a pot in a while. I know he's itching too.
Call.
So Sam now in the profit column. Good for him.
I don't really
$14
like
up.
to 3-bet this sort of hand class in general, just because I think I fold out a lot of dominated hands, and my barrels are really unclear, and especially not from the big blind, but far too high up to fold. Good hand. Just leave my music off, I guess. Check.
This is a board where the in-position player is just going to have a fair amount of interaction. He's just going to have overs that can float. So I don't necessarily want to barrel for a protection here, because I think between both the players, they're just going to be able to continue at a pretty high frequency. So I have a very natural just like check call versus in position here.
Check.
So Chin checks here. I think I have a lot of range advantage here on this board texture, and for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and bet my hand here, my exact hand, a lot of equity. See if I can fade Chris on this bet.
15.
So the issue here isn't really whether we have showdown value against the betting range. I think we certainly do, and he has a lot of hands like Queen Jack, Jack 9, King Jack that have to sort of stab 7-9, 6-7. The issue is that when Chin checks, I think he's just waited to showdown hands. Like when he checks, he has his give up hands and his showdown hands. His give ups, I think, are few and far between because almost every bluff candidate interacts with 10-8-4. Like every suited connector, all the offsuit Broadway hands. So I think he's just weighted towards showdown hands, which we all lose to, like ace queen, ace king, like 10-9, maybe an 8. So just going to fold given the presence of the other range.
Okay, I think that I have two options here. I can either check call or check raise. I think that... So obviously if I had a hand... Do I have the 7 of hearts? Obviously we're outside of construction, so there's two paths. I can check call, which is very natural, but I don't think he just has like too much 10-10 here. Given the fact that I think he 3-bets it at a high frequency. We do block a set. We are playing like very, very deep. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna kind of go for it. I think that I want to go with a check raise and then just like go off pretty hard and like force him to hold on with a 10. It also like sheds some equity. So if he has like a hand like Queen Jack, etc., we kind of just like force him to play a little bit defensively with that hand. So I think I could go either way. Obviously, check call is high frequency, check raise is low frequency. This hand isn't even in our construction often, so like we're kind of in an exploitative realm here. But I think that we made a read earlier on the King X board that he's probably stabbing too many boards for like a big sizing. So I think we're gonna just kind of go with that read and kind of put these two reads together and kind of go with it here. Obviously we're playing with fire, like big fire. So let's go.
I actually don't mind Christian's check raise here. Largely he'd be using 8-7 of clubs and 8-7 of hearts specifically. He happens to have one of each.
So Chin raises me 60.
So if he's ever going to have an offsuit combo, this is okay.
It's interesting. I don't think he thinks I'm probably getting out of line here, but you know, he definitely has 8s in his range, 10s, ace 10. He probably has he has a lot of suited connectors. Maybe turn backdoor flush draw. Maybe he can barrel, 2-barrel. Definitely going to call here. Plenty of equity to call, I believe, and see what develops a turn.
Yeah, this is a very clear continue for Todd. You can make a slight
buckle
case
up, boys and girls,
for a small 3-bet here, but given that Christian's
so
check raise
really
for values
that card that often
are mostly
10,
sets,
he would need to have
9-7
like
doesn't
King
really
10
help.
offsuit at a fair frequency. Not necessarily sure how much he has that hand. He still does contain Queen Jack now that will call, and then fold the river. I think I want to start polarizing. So pot now is 140. So let's go with that size. He can have King 10 off. Maybe he holds on with Ace 10 off. He will have some 10x of clubs that call folds or call and then makes his hand. But I think we have to just like polarize, force him to a tough decision with some like Jack 9 suited, Queen Jack suited, etc. You know, I always kind of do this in these poker all outs. Like I put myself in the toughest spots, but like, you know, that's the name of the game, I think. All right, let's go.
I think what Christian should kind of recognize is that when his ranges are wider than they otherwise should be by having this combo, by default, he naturally is. He needs to gear back on the sizings a bit. So choosing this near full pot size becomes very difficult to navigate because you are
So-
against a range that's narrowing very quickly, but your
He
range is
definitely
pretty wide.
pulling out here. I think that's a pretty big bet. I mean, he's basically telling me he's got a set here. But do I believe him is the question.
It doesn't matter. You have 9.
I don't believe I have price to call here. Maybe 150, 140, 140. But I feel like I could make a play at this pot.
Nope.
Maybe if it was a diamond king.
I just don't understand why
Maybe
he wants me to fold.
you'd be more likely to be bluffing with hands like
Now,
10x, 8x, 4x.
ooh, man.
So really 10x of diamonds, 4x of diamonds,
Thinking
because
about
you would
doing
at least
something
reduce the
crazy.
amount of sets that Christian
True.
can check raising with.
Makes sense.
But yeah, so I think Todd's decision on flop is a very clear continue. Like I said, he could potentially put in some small 3-bets, but calling is going to be the more standard play. When a non-diamond
man.
comes off on the turn, it's going to be very difficult for him to follow through and realize his equity at this point. You can see he's getting just about the right price, being laid 2-1, and he's about a 2-1 dog. But with the clubs
Go, let
present,
it go.
it's just impossible for him to call. And also, Christian's at
close.
stone bottom of range.
Sure, yeah. Well, nice play, Christian. I love what you were talking about, where you're increasing the amount of hands that you're playing, so you should adjust the sizings of your bets. And that makes total sense, because Christian, if he's doing that with all of his 8-7 offsuits, he's just included 12 new combinations that
Right.
are just going ham.
Right.
So are you going to, that's a lot of large bluffs that you're now
King 7 off.
Yeah.
putting into
River
your range
King. I
construction.
was supposed to win that hand.
And to be fair, I don't
Call.
think that we can make those sweeping generalizations because it is a unique spot, right? It's not a vacuum
Totally.
scenario
Totally.
that he's just going to be putting over and over again. But my bigger point, I guess, is the target that he's trying to apply pressure to is always going to be the same. So where Christian's range is going to be rather dynamic, sometimes he's going to have 8-7 off there at a low frequency. The rest of the time, he just won't. What won't change
Gonna be
is
playing
Todd's
pretty
response.
tight, this
And it's
formation.
continually
Don't
getting
really
very
wanna involve
narrow.
myself with a hand which with such shitty equity.
All right, 5x again. So they really don't want me to play here. Queen 5 suited.
This is going to 3-bet.
See, this is not going to be a call. Just a matter if I want to 3-bet. Frequency is really high, but I also just
Sam only being
has to be
200 blinds
opening too
deep,
many
it's
hands
kind of
for
nice to
5x,
leverage.
right?
Why choose Queen 5 of all hands?
So he's sitting with 500 now. I mean, I could just fold, like, whatever. I don't
Yeah.
want to try too hard. It's just a fold.
You would prefer King 5 or Ace 5, obviously. Queen 5 would be like one of the next pip downs. It's one of those things where it's like it's a little bit too good to fold and too bad to call. Facing a raise size that large. The queen interacts nicely.
It's just kind of weird when they choose that size, and I have a hand that's like teetering on a call. I kind of feel incentivized to 3-bet, but like I've been playing a lot of hands, and he also just saw me show down like Ace 4 off, so like maybe I should just fold.
We have about 45 minutes left in today's broadcast. If you're liking what you're watching, give a huge shout out to Team S4Y. Without them, this wouldn't be possible. This is Poker Out Loud that you're watching. Make sure to hit that follow button and subscribe to us both on Twitch and YouTube. Check out S4Y's YouTube channel where they do go over hands that they've done in the past. They look at, let's say,
Raise it.
Poker Out Loud a year ago and say, man, I'm so much better now.
It's true.
Check them out at youtube.com. youtube.com/S4YTV. If you want to be a part of this, you can head on over to tv.s4y.io. Berkey runs his academies. There are courses
Sleeper.
where you can also participate in these.
I'll do
Get
the
your
6, you
own
put out the 12.
Come on, man. You fucking.
12?
First-hand training.
12?
Straddle, restraddle.
No, you never straddled the whole night.
No. Straddle, restraddle, not happening.
You put out the 12? I do 6, you do 12?
Action done, yeah.
And here at Run It Up, we're happy to have you guys. Thank you so much for staying with us throughout the entire day. Here in Twitch chat, over here
Got
on
open
YouTube
here?
chat.
20.
Off we go.
All right, 20 open from the button. And we actually have it this time. On 3-bet here, we have right at 500. Gonna make it 60.
$60 is the bet.
Tough for Kenny to call here with exact stack sizes.
Yeah, I think
Position alone warrants a call.
I think it does become a lot more justifiable in position.
Okay.
I think his opening size is the biggest problem here. This is nice for Sam.
All right, so
Very
not
good
the
spot to start checking.
greatest flop of the ace, but we do have the heart in our hand. So what we're going to do is we're going to check range here.
Check. Checks back.
Ooh.
Yikes.
When he
Spikes the
checks
one-outer.
back here, I expect him to have a lot of showdown value. He can have some pocket pairs like jacks. He can also have, plenty of ace-x here. We are going to check one more time.
I like that.
Me too.
Nothing to really target.
My worst hands are going to fold.
This is big.
125 is the bet.
I don't mind it, though, to be
125?
honest.
Okay.
The problem is I think Kenny
All right, he
doesn't
bets,
consider how often
pretty
he's
much
set up a
right
set
at
here.
pot. We're not going to fold at this moment.
I think
125.
I think.
Okay.
I think it's very reasonable to check aces twice in this particular spot.
Oh, yeah.
Hello.
Ooh.
So we should be block betting now. Something in the neighborhood of 125.
I agree. You have the virtual nut. Well, you have the
You do have the
nuts
nut.
here.
Yep.
You got
Not
to.
sure.
Board changed up so crazy
You
here.
can call us with anything other than ace jack with the jack of hearts. Not sure we really have any bluffs here. We have 1, 3. We're just gonna make a small blocking bet. I'll bet 125.
My man.
There he is.
Oh, with the all red. I
There
love
he
it.
is. Oh, Sam.
Very good.
I love it. Because, look, you're not
That's
really
what-
going to get a lot of bluffs out of Kenny.
Right. It's difficult to have a bluff on a 4 flush board like this.
Yeah.
He would have to be turning like one pair into a bluff. It's a really quick laydown with the set there. He can consider calling there some of the time. I don't think. I mean, don't get me wrong. In his live environment, that's probably 100% of the time a flush. But I do think that we have to be a little mindful of the fact that, Sam's going to have hands like ace, king, no heart that check twice. And certainly can't just check fold to the turn.
Sure.
And isn't always just going to not block river.
Fuck
Sure,
him.
yeah. That's a perfect
Ace
card to
bet.
bluff if you are the preflop aggressor.
Right.
Well, not preflop aggressor, but the 3-better
Yeah.
preflop.
Yeah, you're
Range
just gonna have way more
button
king of hearts
can,
in your range.
8. Definitely gotta fade a few of them, but I definitely don't want him to fold. So
Get him.
35?
Get him.
Chin will wiggle away. There it is. 35's big
that sucks.
with aces in position there. I think something more like 25 is
Yeah.
appropriate.
I agree.
Think about what you would want to do with king queen suited. What you would want. I mean, you have aces. You have the cheat code. You know, you've unlocked the game. It's different when you have queens or kings and you need to protect your range a little bit more.
He even said he wanted Christian to stay in the pot. But I think he got a little too greedy there.
Sizings tend to be the mechanic that the population as a whole are least educated on. And it's a byproduct of not recognizing
Totally. And
simple pot odds.
you know, I think if he's in a standard life scenario, that is fine.
Right.
People don't read into that nearly as much.
Well, people get swept up in the action.
Exactly
Right?
so.
Yeah. There's a certain pulse to a live game, and people get so enthralled with that metagame.
Yeah.
Like, even whenever Todd had the 9-7, he was so emotionally fixated on the hand's equity and the fact it was against Chin that he suddenly wanted to make a play at a pot on a card that heavily favors the check raiser. He's just like, oh, I think I can make a play at this pot. It's like, what play? Like, you know, Chin's at stone bottom, so it'll work if you rip through here, but like, it's suicide mission.
Yeah. You know, a lot of times when I want to raise, especially I'm talking specifically about live.
Yeah.
I want to raise, but my hand's marginal. I'll just raise it to 3x.
17.
When I have a monster, I raise it to 5 to 7x, and literally I get the same response.
You guys all taking notes out there?
Don't
Andre bets
exploit
big?
me, please. All right, don't exploit me.
That's right. He'll be at Run It Up Reno,
April
4th. 3rd, sorry.
April 3rd to the 13th. You can find me in the back room working on all the production.
Lucky for him, in Taiwanese, you don't need to make any bets.
That's true.
If there's justice, I will either get a hand and felt someone after all the action I've been given, or get a hand and get felted.
All right, production, can
Either
you mute
one
him?
is fine with me.
How adorable that Christian thinks this is what giving action looks like. It's his first time. He's VPIP in 20%. Good for him.
No, production, actually unmute him, and then as soon as he starts talking again, and then mute him, and then Berkey will talk
So
over.
open to 10.
All right, get ready, production. Sorry. I tried. Next hand.
Definitely going to continue for a 3-bet here.
35.
So 35?
Yes.
Okay. 2 days here. We're going to peel.
Check.
Check suits here, monotone flop.
Yep. Check.
Okay. I think he has showdown value here when he checks here. I don't think he has a lot of bad folds on this flop. I'm just going to check back.
Monotone boards, I like to check back, and with the turn brick, I'll barrel.
55. Well,
We have just about 30 minutes left, guys and dolls. if you guys like what you're watching, please tweet at production at Run It Up on Twitter. Tell them you guys need to put in more work and we want more content. Maybe they'll go an extra 12 hours longer. Maybe. Non-zero chance. Maybe.
Got a hand we can face some resistance with here. Again, looking to avoid chin and probably involve myself with the rest of the table.
Wow. The kid's giving up.
He's scared. Scared money right there.
I can't take it. We didn't teach that.
Premium. The 5-4
So-
suited.
4 or 5 of diamonds is it's a beautiful looking hand.
This is my favorite hand.
Out of position here against Chris. I'm gonna have to flop well, but a lot of boards come out that I'm gonna be covering.
No, that's not true.
I think with the call here, yeah, I think a call here is gonna be best.
It's actually the poorest flopping of all the suited connectors.
Well,
Shockingly, they just go in ranking
I'm gonna
order.
call anyway. Might not be
5-6 flops better than 5-4. 6-7 flops better than 6-5.
What I like about this hand is
Well,
you just
7-6,
know after the flop, do I invest money in it or
suited,
not?
but,
Yeah,
we're just
that's
gonna
fair.
call Here.
I actually don't mind Todd's flat call from the small. I just don't agree with the reasoning behind it. Here's a good example of it. In a heads-up spot, if he was defending from the big blind, this would be a situation where he'd be able to continue. He's going to
This
ultimately end
board's
up
going to
overfolding
be
here.
a pretty high frequency C-bet. I definitely have ace high advantage, and facing the big blind and the small blind who have so many combinations, it's just going to be a slam dunk high frequency C-bet with range. Given my particular hand, I block a lot of continuance, but there's still a lot of like, whatever. They're not going to fold one pair. But given that I block like ace X and 6X, I'm probably going to size down a little bit. Should be a small size anyway, because it's a high frequency, but let's start off with 10.
10?
So I'm going to go ahead and peel this one. I do turn a lot of equity with the diamond. I can drill the nuts. Chris opening, he's going to have a lot of aces here. I don't think he's folding, so I don't think this serves well as a check raise right now. So I'm just going to call.
Deuces and threes help as well.
Yep. This is
Alright, so pot
this is a problem.
50 in the pot is 10 notes to call. I mean, Chris has a lot of ace-x hands that he can bet here. There are a decent amount of turn cards here with this 7 that we wrap around. Small blind can block some of that. With the price we're getting, we're just gonna call and see another street.
Man, if this was a button raise or something, I'd feel a lot more confident. But with the under the gun raise by Chris, now of course it's 5-handed, so it's not that many people, but still, I'm a little bit more
this card
scared
here,
to continue.
obviously, I turned a little more equity. It's possible I might go for a check raise. I'm going to check the action here,
Oh
but I'm
boy.
going to check and try to realize.
Check.
Chris can have some ace-x hands that picked up flush draws. You can also pick up flush draws with some other hands as well. We have some straight outs. I'm not sure how clean all of them are. We're going to check this hand. We're going to see what he bets, and we can decide what to do going forward.
So 5-7 fills, but other than that, there's not a lot of relevance to the 4. Given that they both called ace-x is pretty high in presence, it's just pretty likely one of them has an ace. So I'm going to start ramping up the pressure here, start building a pot, start to polarize. Yeah. So there's 60 in the pot. I'm probably just going to go, not full pot.
Yeah, I think
But
he can even
50.
go bigger.
50?
I like this a lot. You know, I think the
I
especially
think he
the small
should go
blind-
bigger.
How big?
I think like
So Chris betting 50 here.
3 ways,
um,
probably 1.5x pot.
Definitely
Wow.
feels like he wants to protect, wants to deny me from hitting flush straight.
You hear the language used? How it's possessive?
My hand
Wants
is
to
in
deny
a
me.
tough
Everything
spot
feels
here.
personal.
I mean, I have a 4 here. I could river a 4. I feel like it'll be the best hand. Definitely, or a 5, or a 7 here. But I'm gonna go ahead and continue with the idea of a check raise here and see if I can put some pressure on him and
Well-
see where we get.
He had a plan and he's following through. I got to commend him for that. However, eek. There we go.
160.
So remember, this is almost pot, and then he Todd check raises here. Sam obviously gets out of the way. What do we do here for Chris? I think
So I think it's pretty possible for Todd to have flatted some sets on the flop. There's only one combination of 6s left. There's also 3 combinations of 8s left. I don't expect him to be just flicking it in with 5-7 off. So it looks like we're losing to 4 combinations of 5-7, maybe a little bit less because it decides to check raise or lead at some frequency. We can just say 4 for simplicity's sake. And probably 1 combo of 6s, a little less, unless he decided to raise the flop. 8s. I don't really see a reason to 3-bet. I think his range just plays pretty perfectly versus a 3-bet. He would just fold all worse and call all better, I think. There's also a chance that he's just raising a worse hand for value. We're just going to have to lose some money here if he somehow has a better hand. 160.
if I'm identifying the language of Todd, it's definitely possessive. If I'm identifying the language of Chris, it's actually defeating.
A little bit. But I think it's because he's so conditioned by his pool of under bluffers. Kind of what I spoke about at the top of the hour.
Yeah.
So with this card here,
Todd has to bluff.
Yes.
I wish I had a different suit.
Well, you could have chosen
Um,
to check
it's
raise
gonna
with a
be
different
hard
suit.
to,
Yes.
obviously, I'm not winning at Showdown, and so in order to get him to, the only way I'm winning here is a bet here, and I'm not going to shut it down now. I've come this far; it's going to look terrible if I check just to give up.
Problem though is that he only has like 3 combinations
And-
of clubs here.
Right.
A7, Ace5, 8-7.
Mm-hmm. Which means that he can't polarize, which is what his hand is needing.
Oh man!
So his hand needs
Am I
to
gonna
bet
just
like
give up.
500, but he doesn't have those hands in range really.
Uh-huh.
He would only have like Ace7 of clubs, Ace5 of clubs, Ace8 of
man.
clubs
Uh-huh.
that could really do this on the end.
Yeah, he could have Ace8 of clubs.
And now Chris has all of the combinations of Ace-X
I
of clubs.
feel like
Sure,
if I
yeah.
bet right here, I'm going to get snapped off.
Yep, you're right.
Check.
Just as, you should have still followed through.
A lot of
Yes.
interesting hands.
If you're going to
this
do the
session.
turn play.
Right.
What's in the pot now? 320, 380. Our target seems pretty thin. Something I sort of just forgot about was Ace-X of clubs. But I expect that to just pretty much bet in full. I suppose my target now is like ace 4, 6 4. Maybe like an ace jack that was like raising to see where it's at or something. It seems pretty thin, pretty sketchy. Not gonna check though. Probably gonna choose a smaller size, given that my target seems pretty narrow, and it's kind of a scary card for my target. 380. Let's just go. I'm gonna go a little under 1/3.
125.
This is a good value bet.
It's bold. I like it. He's really identified what he's targeting, which I think is great. There it is. So, man, Berkey, there's so much to unpack in this hand.
That was a weird one. I guess Todd's getting kind of out of line. I don't really know what hand he would be check raising and then folding. That probably makes my ace-jack fold to him worse, because if he's capable of having a check raise, check fold on that kind of run out, then he's probably capable of attacking me out of the big blind too.
I think
Weird.
that it's hard to talk about the hand without seeing it, but it was ace of diamonds, 8 of clubs, 6 of... Wait, ace of...
It was ace 8-6, rainbow, turn 4 of clubs,
4 clubs.
putting the 6 and the 4 of clubs out.
So I think Chin's definitely opening a lot more than he should be in this position, and I'm going to be looking to be 3-betting him more, but not with a hand like this that shows down pretty well. Doesn't really function as a 3-bet.
All right, production, we ready to mute?
Third range here.
Got it. What are we doing here, Berkey?
Yeah,
So,
just get to third range.
I think at this point, we're going to third pot bet pretty much range here.
It's gonna make it pretty tough for me to continue.
Where are we going? Production super trolling Christian. Christian's been saucy, all right? This is what you get when you're going to be saucy to our players.
So fucking annoying.
That is a
I
confirmed $5 bet.
have nothing.
I have no clue what just happened.
And he knows
He
that
bet
I'm gonna
$5.
have nothing a lot, just defending out
Which
of the
is
blind.
obnoxious because on these monotone boards, it's very tough for Chris to defend
I
hands
have
that
to
don't
fold
contain
the
a spade.
$5.
Yeah. All right. Bye-bye. Wow, that was perfect. Thank you so much,
Said the nonsense thing.
Berkey.
Anytime. Yeah, going back to the 8-6-5-4 hand. Again, Todd makes a tremendous error on the turn. Well, first he makes a flop mistake. His hand should not be check calling. Its equity to the gut shot is really, really low. And its backdoor equity is very poor also because the board's so advantageous to the preflop aggressor.
I feel like the game is like primed for a big pot.
Good luck, buddy.
Yeah.
That sounds like a stuck man.
The other
I would like to be involved in it.
the other thing that I was noticing is that board, how they're actually the clubs paired. It's there's actually not a ton of big combo draws in there. So if there was the ace was the club instead of the 8-4 of clubs, then there's a lot more abilities to have these pair plus flush draw plus straight draw combos that actually raise there.
Right, right. And the thing is those hands are making a mistake by raising,
against Todd.
but at least they're logical.
Okay, yeah.
Right, so like if he's just intuitively making raises at that point, at least it makes sense to be choosing combo draws, which is why Chris's defense seemed a little bit like, I mean, I guess I'm just going to lose money whenever he has a good hand here because like that's really what you're handcuffed to doing. But he also recognizes like combo draws shouldn't really be taking this line; they should just be check calling.
Okay.
Favorite
So
hand?
Yeah, just that entire small blind range at that point, if it's not 5-7 on sets, it's really difficult to find the bluffs, especially in a three-way pot where you're pretty disincentivized
Okay,
to
round
try
two
to
of Chris
leverage
here.
everybody off.
I'm not having good luck with these suited connectors, but I don't think I'm folding this hand, that's for sure.
Your boy Chris is fully evolved. Raises up with 9-4 suited. We go to a flop.
So I'm going to check here most of the time.
I have a hand that could use some denial and can also just be turned into a bluff on later streets. So we're going to start with a small bet, following with the denial size.
Okay.
This is the part of the game where it's really important to remind your opponent how much he's stuck, just to like seep it into his brain.
Oh, man. Nothing's worse than when Christian's happy.
How much are you stuck?
Why?
I'm stuck too, I want to know.
You're stuck more than me now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Chris just outplayed.
Yeah. He just out-trolled the troll.
GG, shithead.
All right, king 9 off, obviously an open here on the button.
Eight.
$96 now. Oh, it's stuck 96 now.
Wow.
How much are you stuck?
I don't know. I don't count.
You counted, I saw you.
There's plenty of
I
time
saw
for
you count
counting
like
when the
mad
dealing's
times. I saw
done.
you going like this, like.
Nah, it's just habit. It's just like
Oh,
chip
okay.
shuffle habit.
Okay, well, we're not supposed to chip shuffle. I don't know if you saw the sign.
Oh, man.
All right, Berkey, I just modded you so you can actually put out
Oh,
links.
thank you.
You pleb.
Ten.
Whoops.
Berkey's answering people in chat.
I'm a man of the people.
Replays. Find replays at tv.solve4y.io. LinkedIn chat. Or go to his YouTube. YouTube.com/solve4y.
We put out so much free shit. I can't believe this is what we do.
Yeah, you're an idiot. You're supposed to charge for all this, man.
You started it, man.
I know.
You started it.
I didn't help. We're men of the people,
Gonna
Berkey.
open it, appear
I
on
hear
the
you.
button.
We came from humble beginnings.
It's a
Just here to
little
make people
wide,
happy.
but again, five-handed here. I think this hand has a lot more value.
10 is the bet.
King Queen here with the button raise. We are gonna 3-bet. Make it like 4x from the small. So make it 45 actually.
You know, when I was
50 is
first
the bet.
learning poker, the guy that taught me said you fold your king-queen offsuits in the small blind.
Oh my god. That is a painful thing to hear. That's easily one of my favorite hands.
Yeah. Now I look at it, I'm like, wow.
Mm.
That's some potato shit right there.
Yeah. I think Todd can fold this hand. This is bottom of range. You're going to have a lot better suited hands to continue with.
Alright, so we made a slight $5 misclick there. We don't have a heart. We do. This is kind of a neutral board. He can definitely have some 10x, some draws to wrap around this board. Plus we unblock hearts. are going to bet here, though. He definitely has some ace-high hands to miss. So we're going to make it 65.
65.
All right, can we stop everything for a second?
It's a good bet.
Why does he cover his chips like this? Like he thinks we're gonna steal it? Hey, can we get a zoom in on this?
Don't listen to him.
You think we're gonna steal your chips?
Let's get
you
away
have to
from
cover
the
them
shop.
so that in
Get
case
away
like
from the
someone
shop.
steals
It's
it,
habit.
walking around, we just like
habit.
palm
I
a
don't
chip.
No,
Yeah, I
no,
don't
no.
know.
With
Christian
17
does not
cameras in the
control this
world watching,
broadcast.
we're just gonna palm
It's
your
habit,
chip.
man. It's muscle memory.
Who palmed your chips?
He does
Who did
this
that to
to Conrad on the vlogcast.
He's trying to
too.
alpha this shit
Fuck
so
off,
hard.
man.
Yeah, he
You
does
do
this
my thing,
on
we have my corpse.
Bro, there's like 1,000 people
whenever we're doing the
watching.
academy
Maybe
commentary.
3,000.
He'll be like, camera 2.
I don't know. You don't
And
trust
Travis is running the switcher like, I know which shot
Wait,
to
don't
go
say anything,
to.
Todd.
This is what we have to put up with, okay? Every day, all day. We live a hard life.
Yep.
I am just going to open probably stone bottom.
15.
Okay, 15. It's pretty small. Like I'm unsure why he's doing this. I've been kind of messing with him a lot. I don't necessarily want to quote unquote waste his hand into a 3-bet. Negative portions is that if I call, Kenny gets to squeeze. But maybe I'll just like fucking call. But I think that I kind of just want to not 3-bet and waste his hand because I think that Chris is just kind of over it. So I would rather have a more polarized hand. So I'm just going to flick it in, hope that Kenny gets out of the way. He's been pretty quiet lately. So he probably just like ran good in the beginning. So let's just call. Okay, Kenny calls really fast, so he's pretty capped there.
Pretty high frequency C bet. This could be a hand where this is going to be a clear double barrel here, or triple barrel. Just a good bluffing candidate in general, given our equity and the nature of the board. Just going to start off with, given that both ranges are pretty wide, and this is an advantage texture, and I also have the queen of spades and a 5. Just going to start with, what did I open to? 15? Let's just start with 20.
Okay, I think I'm just going to fold. We're going to have better hands to float here. The king 10s, the queen 10s, spades, some pairs like jack X's like that I would have similar to this hand, like jack 10, etc. So I'm just going to let this one go. Also, he's betting into both of us, that of which can have a fair amount of equity, so his range is slightly stronger than if he was just betting into me. So I'm just going to let this go. Obviously, a pretty hand, but just gonna block.
Bye, Kenny. I'm going to annotate Kenny's thought process. Don't you guys worry.
We put closed captioning on the screen.
Yep.
Inside Kenny's head.
Actually, production. I need you to do that. So I'm commentating over here. I just want you guys to step into my shoes. I'm commentating over here. We're both watching stream. I'm trying to manage everything. Berkey's over here writing up paragraphs on YouTube chat.
I'm on it, man. I jump right back in when it's my turn to talk.
I know. It's amazing. And then I look over there and you're just...
Ace-4 off from the first blind.
It's like 5,000 word essays over here.
Actually,
I'm
not
trying to
sure
give
how
to the
this is
people.
supposed to play.
A man of the people.
I'm just going to raise.
Matt Berkey.
20. Ball.
Another
I
quick
think
call from Kenny. No real decision to have a
Kenny's
3-bet.
hand could
So
3-bet.
again, he's like pretty capped. Let's see what happens. Pretty good board for his defense range. Unfortunately for us, we don't have the ace of spades, so I think I want to start with a check, maybe delay this hand to a future street bluff. Maybe he's in the other portion of his range, something like, you know, lower pairs and things like that. So I'm going to start with a check.
Check. Check, check.
Okay, facing the check back here with no real decision to ever bet, quick check back. Again, he's like in that showdown driven range given how given how fast he's acting. Definitely doesn't have much decision on flop. That can mean a 10. I think I'm just gonna kind of check again. My hand does have some showdown. I think he has a showdown driven range, so it's gonna be like bet if I do want to run this through, and I think he does contain some 10x's in range, so I don't necessarily want to do that with this little equity. So I'm just gonna start with a check again.
Check.
Check again.
Check.
Thank
Okay,
you, Kenny.
Another check when this card comes off. I think that we're low enough in our distribution that we want to start with the bet. Get him off some hands, some ace highs as well. So we get him off some chops. We also, like, yeah, we do have the best hand sometimes, but sometimes he has like sevens or something. I do have ace jack more than him that I would play like this. I think I just want to bet pot and represent a range that contains like king x's that are definitely good, some 10x's that I was slow playing, maybe some ace jacks. So something like 40 bucks. So let me see, go with 42.
I mean, do we not have the best production?
Incredible. I think Kenny's forced to call here.
Hand that was marginal at best got worse.
Oh no.
Uh,
I think that Kenny's overlooking the reasoning behind checking back twice there. First, I think he can.
Are you sure I'm stuck more than you, or no?
I think.
Just take it off. It's important.
I think he very well
Are you
could
sure
bet the
I'm stuck more
turn,
than you? Are you
essentially
sure I'm
for
stuck more than you?
denial's sake. So
Yeah.
he's just going to be
Really?
ahead of.
Yeah.
You want to bet?
No.
Oh, okay.
all right, pipe
Yo,
down.
I forget that Chris is 21. Like, we treat him like such
Chris
a mature
is
adult.
21?
Yeah. We treat him like a mature adult all the time.
Oh my god.
But like, he's all wrapped up in his feelings,
All right.
and don't
Fuck.
think this isn't bothering him.
yeah.
I'm just gonna start opening now.
10.
Look, man, I love Kenny. Oh no. Production, get your shit together.
Not much of a decision there.
No, you see what production tried to annotate it, but then they switched at the same time. I'm disappointed in you, production. I thought you better. All right, guys. So we have just about a couple hands left. Looks like 3 hands left. 2 hands left. 3 hands left. So 3 hands left for the end of the show.
Stuff in our open range.
Oh, he's at it.
Let's go.
He's at it.
Good hand.
And no action for him. Oh, okay. Maybe.
Nine, 7 here. Defend this here.
I feel like Sam's had to
definitely a
defend
range
more big
board.
blinds.
Range advantage board
Than
for
anybody
him.
else all night.
We are going to check.
Two more hands left, guys. If you guys like what you're watching, please hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button. This wouldn't be possible without the Matt Berkey team over at Solve4Y. You can head on over to tv.solve4y.io. Check them out. They have great videos. They have training academies. They have private streams. adult only. Christian Soto does little dances. High production
You can open
value.
here too.
10 out of 10.
15.
Again, I tend to just put this hand class in my flatting range and prefer to 3-bet some lower suited cards.
Good.
Nice flop for the
Range
pre-flop
advantage
aggressor.
board. We both know that. And pretty much I'm still checking back everything.
Oh,
Yeah, that's a board texture that he
So
as
just
the
gonna check
aggressor
range
gets
to
to bet.
Kenny on
Yeah.
that flop. Didn't really need much explanation. I don't have a spade. Not sure how relevant that is. I think when he checks back, he just has like mostly showdown hands. I expect all his nothingness to just c-bet. I think we're still losing a lot to like, maybe not. We'll see what happens.
Check.
Delayed one. Time to get value.
25.
$25. Interesting size.
I would love to see him check raise here.
Full pot. 25 into 30.
Good candidate to choose.
I mean, I think Kenny should know that I have a lot of combinations out of the big blind. Compared to the rest of my range, we probably rank pretty high. I think we're a little bit too high up to just fold now, especially given that we block the 10. He's polarizing. Weird size. I don't think his size makes
Punish.
sense. We're just gonna
Make it 100.
call one, probably.
I love that idea, Berkey. I wasn't thinking about it, to be honest. But now that you mention it, it just...
It's a
definitely
lot
makes
easier
lot
when
of
you have a
sense.
spade,
Yeah.
obviously, but
Got him.
Check there.
And now Chris is going to a deep and dark place. I'm only up
Exposed
$200
there.
now.
King X. Like,
So no, I really expect.
Keep going.
I really expect Kenny to be c-betting like that sort of hand. It's also a prime example of why I don't like 3-betting, just because you retain all these offsuit combinations that you dominate. I really didn't expect a hand like that to be in Kenny's range after he checks back the flop.
6 straddle.
I'll hand it over to Todd here.
All right, guys. Last hand of the night
Can open here, King 10.
for Poker Out
Suited.
Loud.
It's, again, it's a little wide, but 5-handed.
20 is the bet.
No pass.
for those that couldn't hear what production asked, they wanted to know if Andre was still going to fight Samuel, and
Yeah, he-
Andre said he
Done?
thinks Samuel's a little too
Too
tired.
tired. I can just tell.
done.
Well done.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Hey, it was so much fun hanging out with
done?
all of you. I just like to relax, have fun, watch some poker, talk about it a little bit. Look, I'm no expert. I barely know this freaking game. But I do know that money is fun to win. Samuel Shepard. our
What a
biggest winner.
comeback.
$191, the short stacker of the day. Important to note.
Mm-hmm.
Todd also up 150, and look at these losers.
Wow. Chris was right. Chin was stuck $2 more than him.
Loser. You know, Kenny, I know, is going to your academy.
Yep.
I would love to see the changes that he makes afterwards. Maybe we can get him back on here.
Kenny's actually been to the academy, and this has been an uphill battle that we've been fighting, where he's a tactician. He sits at home. I mean, he's sent me like novels of his strategy top to bottom, and it's actually very well constructed. But there's a disengagement from what he's writing down on a piece of paper off the felt to what's actually being practically thought about in real time. So I think that's why he's like so automatic in so many spots.
Sure.
It's because like he has a good feel for what he's doing. The problem is that there are a lot of hiccups in his actual implementation, like the check back with Jack 10.
Sure. I think we can kind of relate to a lot of that. You know, there exists, like when I was playing soccer, I knew some of my teammates were amazing in practice.
Yeah.
But then you get to the game and they have no situational awareness of how to play the game.
We saw it in baseball a lot. Guys would just get the yips. They were just practice heroes, and then you put them on the field, and like they just crumble under the spotlight.
Well, a great place to train and really get the ideas and the fundamental of how you should be playing both strategy and tactics. You can do that at the Cash Game Academy, April 1st to the 3rd. There's one spot left, but I'm letting you guys know there's an extra spot for your sister.
Only for your sister.
Only for your sister. Head on over to solvefory.io to book that last spot. Don't worry, though. Hey, you're getting ready for WSOP. Life is going to be great. What's going to be even better? Just increase that EV. Head on over to the May 18th MTT Academy, and you yourself can train up for the WSOP main event. I mean, everything, really.
Yeah.
All the events.
But really, the main event.
But really, the main. That's all that we...
And that big 50. We're all trying to win the big 50.
50.
Right. Let's let that one die.
Yeah. All right, what do we got next, production? It's Run It Up Reno. Oh, Run It Up Reno is such a fun time. It is April 3rd to the 13th, our 10th installment of Run It Up Reno official. It's actually our 12th installment overall. RunItUpReno.com has all this information. This is the look at the schedule. Number one thing, the most fun. It's going to be karaoke night. Look, you come... You get free drinks. You come to me, all right? I have these drink tickets. I give them to you. You go over to the bar. You exchange them. You really aren't exchanging any money. Oh, okay, tip them a little bit.
Sure.
Let's not be cheap here. But you get free drinks. I don't personally drink, so you can have my drink coupons. How many drink coupons do you get? It's unlimited.
Wow.
So you get unlimited plus unlimited.
That's strong. That's very strong.
Head on over there to runitupreno.com. Book with your code RIU2020. It has been a tremendously fun time for us here at the booth. You can catch us next week. Okay, look, Wednesday we got Andrew's game. Andrew Nemi is going to be playing some games here at the Run It Up studio. We got High Stakes Poker featuring Matt the Bone Broth Berkey on Thursday. We got Werewolf Stream on Friday. What's not to love? Make sure to stay in the know. Twitter.com/runitup. Instagram.com/runituptv. And for all things Solve4Y, Twitter.com/Solve4YTV. Subscribe to them on YouTube on Solve4Y. Matt Berkey, what else is there to say about Solve4Y? You guys should just...
Nothing, man. We got stuff in the works. You know, we're doing a lot of stuff moving forward with you guys.
Yeah.
We want to really up this production game. We have a movie coming out later this year.
A movie?
Yep. Full-length, feature-length documentary.
Where do you have time for this, Matt Berkey?
I don't. I hire people who are better at this stuff than me.
Nice.
We are launching a free training platform, hopefully May 1. It was supposed to come out January 1. That didn't happen.
You meant 2021.
Right. We're aiming for May 1st. I'm pretty confident we're moving along nicely. I have to pick up the slack on my side, actually, not anyone else's fault. But yeah, I'm really excited for that. It's going to be short training clips between 3 and 5 minutes long, basically trying to move people from intermediate levels to a little bit more advanced thinking, taking people from thinking about their hand to thinking about ranges, hopefully kind of like priming people to get ready to do more training with us behind the paywall.
That'd be awesome. tv.solve4y.io for all things Matt Berkey. All right, guys, we love you so much. Have a good night. We will see you on Friday for a werewolf stream. Until then, from Matt Berkey and Andre Hengchua, bye-bye.